ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, get your damn cocktails ready because we're starting. And we're going to start early. You know why? Because, that's why. I'm going to get my stuff on the line and then we're going to get to the countdown screen. I got to make sure our audio is functioning, and it is. So that means get your cocktails ready because the countdown has begun.
A little ordinary? Is it lacking something awesome? Well, head out to your local liquor store and pick up something extraordinary. Grab a bottle of Old Humble Straight Whiskey or Old Humble Special Reserve. They're clean, smooth, easy drinking whiskeys that taste the way whiskey should taste. From humble beginnings to an extraordinary finish, Old Humble whiskeys are what your bar needs today. Walk tall, be awesome, and drink humble. Old Humble Straight Whiskey and Old Humble Special Reserve. Get yours today.
Get yours today indeed, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, children of all ages. I am the Old Humble Guy, and I am back from traveling the world and ready to have a drink. So where have I been? Where have you been, Old Humble Guy? Great, thanks for asking. Glad you asked, happy to tell you. I have been... I've been on the southwest side of Houston, the west side of Houston, the northwest side of Houston, the south side of Houston, Houston downtown, or just south of downtown proper, in the Med Center, as well as right here in the Humble area, doing tastings. Then we went to Austin for a VIP dinner at the Texas Whiskey Fest, where I debuted for a handful of very select, very special, very ornately dressed and decorated individuals. Yeah, we'll go with that. Our blackout bourbon, the black label here. No, get right close to the camera so y'all can see it. Our blackout bourbon, as you can see right here. Our blackout Boomtown bourbon. That is the stuff that y'all saw me bottling on. I don't remember when it was, but y'all saw me bottling. Cheers! Let's have our opening shot. Cheers, ladies and gentlemen, brothers, sisters, children of all ages. May we worry less about our oughts and more about our shots, and your life be prosperous and blessed. Cheers. Oh, that is delightful. God damn, that is some good bourbon. It's got a light burn at the end, but not that heavy medicine taste that you get with Kentucky whiskeys, because we lightweight the rye and heavyweight the corn, give a little bit sweeter profile. Ah, goodness gracious, it's delightful. So I'm going to pour myself a proper cocktail. So that's what we did Thursday and Friday, and that was a very important trip that I had to take Thursday. I had to leave very early in the morning Thursday to get up there for it was for the event with the Texas Whiskey Fest that was the Texas Restaurant Association attending the showcasing our whiskeys for the TRA guys. Who were at the event. It was lightly attended, but it was attended by important people. So that's why I was unable to do the show last week. I had very important things that needed to get done the next morning, and unfortunately, that meant I couldn't play with you guys. But Friday we had the VIP dinner where I debuted our 72-hour blackout Boomtown bourbon. And then Saturday was the actual Texas Whiskey Fest proper, where we attended and showcased our standard issue Boomtown bourbon, the re-released Boomtown bourbon. In fact, I was showing off the new label Boomtown bourbon that we will be having. I need to have this closer to my face, I think. The new label for our Boomtown bourbon that we will have later on this year, that I have not yet shown off to you fine folks, at least not to any great fanfare. I will be showing that off soon, and you'll be able to see it very soon. Does that mean I'm done traveling? No, that does not mean I'm done traveling. That just means there was a brief hiatus in my travels. I'm smoking my bourbon right now. I'm going to show that off. I'm adding a little apple wood. Is that what we've got? No, walnut wood. Walnut? Yeah, walnut wood chips to our delicious bourbon. And the way that works, you light the fire first in order to get the butane smell out. You don't want to add butane to your whiskey. There's no need for that. But you can see the smoke billowing down from the hat, going straight into the whiskey. As it clings to the whiskey and clings to the top part of the whiskey, I cover it up. I have a lot of whiskey in here. I pour myself a double shot. And I've got a big old chunk of ice. That chunk of ice is probably bigger than it needed to be. But I'm going to give it a little bit extra smoke. Make sure all these wood chips are burned. So we don't have any men left behind here. No man left behind. Nice and cooked and toasty. Then make sure we have a nice head of smoke in there. And then the smoke, what happens is that smoke will cling to the top and convex its way down. The ice will bring down the cold and the warmer stuff will come up to the top. And that'll actually mix the smoke in with the bourbon. And that will aid and abet the flavoring from the smoke into the bourbon. So there you go. That's how it works. That's the science, guys. I didn't make that shit up. That's real life science. But other stuff that went on during the Texas Whiskey Fest, we got to see like 38 other distillers from the state of Texas. It was a really cool collegial event for folks that are really awesome. And this happened. That happened right there. Texas Whiskey Fest 2023. You see that color? That is silver. That is a silver medal. That is a silver medal that we won for our rye whiskey. That is a distinct upgrade. That silver is a distinct upgrade from what we had in 2022, which, as you can see, is more of a bronze color. So that is our bronze medal from 2022, our silver medal from 2023, and next year, by God, I'm going to bring home a gold medal. I'm going to fucking handcraft and baby that whiskey. March is the submission date for that whiskey. I'm going to have it babied and coddled and loved on, and I'm going to sing songs to it and play violin to it and trumpet with it, and I'm going to rock it to its sleep. I'm going to take such good care of that whiskey up until March when we hand it over for the judging. I cannot wait. I'm going to bring home a goddamn gold medal. If it costs me, what am I willing to trade for a gold medal? Well, I'll go with a left nut. I'll trade a left nut. Okay, but tonight's topics, we got one more housekeeping thing. Our mini fest. Our mini fest is May 20th. If you're in the Houston area, in the Humble area, check out our mini fest. It's on Eventbrite. It's on Facebook. You can find it at all the places. I'm talking about it constantly. If you're a member of our newsletter, it's coming to you. Every week, you're going to get an update about our mini fest and the release of our Blackout bourbon bottles. And you can get one of those. There's only going to be about 100 to 150 of those available. And you're only going to be able to get them at the distillery. So keep your ears open, keep your eyes open. I would like to say thank you to my loyal and loving fans. We have passed the 2,000 subscriber mark. Possibly while we're on the air tonight, we'll push up to 210. It's possible. I wouldn't hold my breath, but we'll see. So tonight's topic du jour. Are we there yet? That is 6 minutes in. That means we're 10 minutes into the show. Tonight's topic du jour is going to be whiskey styles. I get this question all the time. I can't tell you how many times I get this question when I go and do tastings. Thursday, I'm going to be in Austin. So if you're in the Austin area, tomorrow, Thursday, I leave the house tomorrow at 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock, so I can be in Austin in time to do a tasting at 2. 2 o'clock and 5 o'clock is when we have tastings in Austin tomorrow. So if you're in the Austin area, Total Wine, Muller and Park Plaza, Park something. That's where we'll be. I'm looking for something over here. Hold on. Pawing around on my desk looking for a thing that should be at my fingertips, but I don't have it at my fingertips. I don't know where it's at. I guess it'll turn up when I least need it. This will do. Not what I was looking for, but it'll do. So tomorrow, Thursday, I will be at the distillery. Is that the goddamn bacon? Woo! Got your hands full. I don't need to know about what you're doing in your spare time, my man. But we do need to talk about our topic du jour. The topic of the night is whiskey styles. I get this question asked so damn many times. I can't even I can't even like identify where and who and how it comes at me. But we get this question asked frequently, so frequently that it's just almost part of the background noise at this point. I'm going to hide that. Bye. Um, what's the difference between? I don't want to make the voice. What's the difference between whiskey? What's the difference between whiskey and bourbon? I get that question asked so damn many times that it's not even funny. What's the difference between whiskey and bourbon? What's the difference between whiskey and bourbon? What's the difference between whiskey and bourbon? What's the difference between whiskey and rye and bourbon and rye and corn whiskey and da 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 da. Do you make any scotch? Do you make beer? What kind of beer do you make? Okay, so first of all, whiskey distilleries don't make beer. There's brew distilleries that'll make beer and whiskey or beer and liquor, but those are not distilleries. Those are breweries, and it's not even the same equipment. There's a brewery equipment, and then there's like a line through the middle where the brewery stops and the distillery starts, and the distillery. Two entirely different entities, two entirely different licensing mechanisms. It's the same agency. So let's just push that out of the way right there. We don't make beer. We don't make any kinds of beer. We're a distillery. Distilleries make liquor, distilled spirits, if you will. Um, Breweries make beer. Okay, so those are two very different things. We don't have growlers. We don't make Kolsch. In fact, I was asked today, do y'all have growlers? No, we don't do growlers. We're a distillery. Okay, so we're clear on that. Step one, what do we make? We make alcohol. So what are the different types of alcohol? Well, you have your broad categories of alcohol. You have your vodka, gin, rum, tequila, whiskey. Vodka, gin, rum, tequila, whiskey. Um, uh, Tater Dom is in the party. Cheers, Dom. Uh, Vodka, rum, gin, tequila, whiskey, and cordials, and you have your cordials, and you have your brandies. Uh, Brandy. What's the other one? What's the brand name for brandy? Uh, Shit, it'll come to me in a minute. It's the French one. The French word for brandy. Brandine. What is it that your French word for your name is? Um, Greetings from Western New York. Bourbon School's in the house. Cheers. I Good to see you guys. God, oh, and congratulations. Y'all are pushing up towards 500, if I'm not mistaken. I know y'all passed a milestone recently, so congratulations to Bourbon School. We'll go with brandy, unless it comes from the whatever region of France. It's called brandy anyway, so it doesn't matter. Um, 18 away. 18 away. Oh, that's right. Okay, so you're almost to your milestone. That's fucking awesome. Congratulations. All right, so those are the major ones. So the brandy is a let's start there and work our way back, and we'll do whiskey last. Brandy is a spirit that is distilled from generally from a fermented fruit. It's generally fermented fermented grape juice, and then distilled off of that fermented grape. So it has a very fruity flavor to it. Generally, relatively low alcohol when it gets distilled. Bottled at anywhere between 35 to 120 proof, depending on where it comes, where it starts. But it's relatively low proof when it's distilled, versus vodka, which is extremely high proof when it's distilled. Whiskey, which is moderate proof when it's distilled, about 160-ish when it's distilled. So let's just that's what that is, and sometimes it's very old VOSP, very old special process or whatever it's called. They have all these things associated with brandy that I don't really need to worry about because I make whiskey. So I don't worry with all that crap. But then let's talk about rum. Rum is distilled from a corn, not a corn, distilled from a sugar wash. So historically, it's molasses, but in the United States, it can be molasses, it can be sugar, um, it can be sugar that's from cane. It can be sugar that's from turnip. Most of our sugar in the United States actually doesn't come from cane sugar. It comes from turnip sugar. Most sugar in the Caribbean and South America comes from cane. Most sugar in the United States actually doesn't come from cane. It comes from turnips, which I find turnips and beets, which I find to be just absolutely stunning. Here in Texas, though, the Imperial Sugar Factory, Imperial Sugar fields was all cane sugar, and you can still go into fields down here in Texas and find sugarcane fields. There's vast sugarcane fields in the state of Texas, and they are weird. You can cut them. You can yeah, turnip sugar, because turnips are apparently they're sweet. And you boil them, you get the sugar out of them, and then you boil the water off of the sugar in the same way that you refine sugar out of sugar cane. Uh, I was as surprised as you are. I had no idea. But there you go. Because nobody eats turnips. Turnips are fucking disgusting. Okay, so that's rum, but it's distilled up to 180 or 160 proof. It's distilled up to 160 proof, and then it's either bottled clear or put into barrels with spices, so you can get your spiced rum, you get your barreled rum, you get all kinds of other rum. The predominant space where rum comes from is, of course, the Caribbean and South America, where they have vast quantities of sugarcane field molasses, the byproduct of refined sugar, and they have all this material that is kind of left over um, from proper processing of sugar. And from that proper processing of sugar, you get this byproduct that is still sweet and still something you can do with, but not really much for consumption. And then that goes into the fermenters, and they ferment it and make delicious liquor concoctions out of it. So that's rum. Next up, gin. Let's go to gin. Gin is a neutral grain spirit that's infused with botanical oils and flavors. And those botanical oils, the holy trinity of botanical oils, is juniper berries, angelic, and shit, my notes are gone. Um, Angelica root, uh, and then there's the third one with coriander. There's coriander, which brings you a little bit of citrus flavor. And then the fourth thing that they add to the Holy Trinity is generally citrus peels. So you can either get lemon peels or lime peels or some combination of the two, or they throw in some other stuff to kind of give it some flavor. And that is your basic London Dry. The difference between London Dry and the other stuff is the juniper and angelica is where your dry stuff is juniper forward. The other stuff is juniper and angelica at equal levels. So that's the difference between those two. When you see London Dry, you know it's going to be juniper forward. You know it's going to taste piney. It's going to have that traditional gin flavor to it. Um, and oftentimes, gin is made with a flavor and a flair of the region where it's developed from. And a lot of that flair and flavor of the region comes from the citrus peels. So in the case of London Dry, the citrus peels are very lemony and very lemony, very limey. But they also pull in citrus flavors from around the world because England was a worldwide empire. You get American gin, it's going to depend on the region where the gin is coming from. So Florida, you have more orange. Texas, maybe more grapefruit. Over in California, maybe more grapefruit, maybe more lime. It really depends on the regional variances where the gin comes from. But we also know that you can get lemons and limes and citrus of all stripes from pretty much anywhere in the world, pretty much any time you want to. So even if you're in some place like, oh, say, I don't know, Texas, you can always add a lot of orange or a lot of zest from pomegranates or pretty much any kind of worldwide fruit, because we're all a worldwide empire now, because we have access to the internet that can give us anything, anywhere, anytime, all the time. Turnip cake is a popular Chinese dish. That just sounds disgusting. That sounds absolutely disgusting. Turnip cake. That sounds like a very sad cake. That sounds like the worst birthday party ever. Okay, moving on from gin. Let's go with vodka. Vodka is a neutral grain spirit, distilled from pretty much anything that they can ferment. So you can get vodka made from wine, grapes. You can get vodka made from black-eyed peas, corn, barley, rye. You can get vodka made from potatoes. You can get vodka made from sugar. You can get vodka made from pretty much anything that has starch and or sugar. You can make vodka. And the idea behind the vodka is to distill it to the point that it has no flavor. You run it through the still, and then you run it through the still up to about 80% 80% alcohol, and then you dilute it. You dilute it with clean water, and then you run it through the still again, and then you dilute it with clean water, and you run it through the still again, and then you dilute it with clean water. So the first time you run it, you get 80% alcohol, 20% water. You dilute that water down to about 40% water. You add about an equal part of water, dilute it down to 40% water. So your original water that you're left with is about still 20%. But it's a smaller percentage of the total. It's more like 10% of the total. Then you run it through again, and it gets cut in half, so it goes from 20% down to 10%. You run it through again, goes from 10% down to 5%. You run it through again, but this time you run it through and try to get as much alcohol out of the wash as possible, because by now you've purified the alcohol to the point where there's very little heads, very little tails left. So you try to get as much of that alcohol out as possible. So the third or fourth time you run it through that still, you're getting up to 190 or 182 proof, which is about 91% alcohol by volume. And by then, the amount of original water you have left in that vodka wash is less than 1%. And that's how you get vodka that tastes like nothing. You add your diluted or your distilled water, bring it back down to proof, to about 80 proof, and then you have basically vodka that tastes like water. And originally, the original name for vodka is an East European term that means little water, because it has a little water in it. So there you go. That is where vodka comes from. Moving on to the dark liquors, or the darker liquors. Tequila can be from anywhere from clear to golden. And you look at your tequilas, tequila comes from the tequila region of the tequila growing region of Mexico. Outside of the tequila growing region of Mexico, it's still an agave spirit, but we call it mezcal. Mezcal is a tequila that comes from outside of the tequila growing region. Much like sparkling wine is outside the Champagne region, and brandy is outside of the... Shit, I'm going to have to look that up, aren't I? French term, brandy, French, what is that? Cavossier, what is brandy called in French? No, that's not it. That's not what I'm looking for. 3 types of brandy from France. Cognac, that's what I'm looking for. Cognac, that's the word I'm looking for. So yeah, just like brandy outside of cognac, because cognac is a specific growing region in France. Thank you. Thank you, Bourbon School. You saved me. I had to look it up too, but you were there. I should have read chat. I shouldn't have gone straight to Google. I appreciate that. Yeah, tequila from the tequila region, which is mostly in, if I'm not mistaken, western Mexico, this western Mexico area just south of California and just south of the American Southwest. That's the main tequila area where they make and distill tequila. Outside of there, you got mezcal. I can make mezcal. I can't make tequila. And yes, I'm thinking about making mezcal because that's a fucking cool drink to have. It's a cowboy drink. Cowboys drink mezcal. You get a little chili pepper right here and a little vial on your necklace. You get a little chili pepper. Take a little bite of that chili pepper. Shot of mezcal. It'd be fucking awesome. Might do that. Might have a chili pepper in every bottle. Anyway, something to think about. It's made with agave, distilled up to 160 proof, bottled at no more than 80 proof, goes into barrels. If it's reposado, it can go into barrels. If it's not reposado, it is silver tequila. Delicious, nutritious, makes you a better dancer. Does not make you a better fighter, but it makes you think you're a better fighter. Be cautious when you drink. And that's another thing about all these whiskeys, all these drinks, all these alcohols, they have the same alcohol in them. So vodka won't make you a sleepy drunk any more than rum will make you a sleepy drunk. Rum will not make you a fighter any more than tequila will make you a fighter. Vodka will not make you a better pilot. Whiskey will not make you a better musician. None of that. They don't have magical properties. It's the same goddamn alcohol. If you become an angry drunk when you drink vodka, that's not the vodka's fault. It's your fault. You're an angry person inside of this mask the sober mask that you keep. If you drink the vodka and it makes that sober mask drop, it's because you're a terrible person on the inside. So quit doing that. Quit blaming the vodka for your bad faults. Don't do that. Don't do that. That's not fair to the vodka. The vodka didn't do anything to you except maybe ruin your liver. The vodka did not make you a bad person. You're a bad person already. Don't blame the vodka. But I'll also drink whiskey because vodka makes people bad people. So let's move on. What have we done already? We've done tequila, rum, gin, vodka, cognac, and brandy. Does that leave us with just whiskey? Are we done? Is that everybody? Is that everybody in the boat? Everybody good? We good? Tequila, rum, vodka, tequila, rum, vodka, gin, cognac, and brandy. I think now it's time to go to the star of the show, Mr. Thumpkin. Broop, broop, broop. It's time to go to the star of the show, uh, which would be whiskey. So let's talk about the different whiskey styles. With in the broad category of whiskey, you have any liquor distilled from fermented cereal grain up to 160 proof, right? So you have corn, oats, barley, malted barley, rye, sorghum, the grain from the sorghum, not the sugar from the sorghum, because you can make sorghum syrup from the sugar from the stalk. Rice, you can do. What's another cereal grain? I already said oats. Um, I mean, those are the big ones. Those are the big ones, but they've got other cereal grains too, smaller quantities, smaller interest cereal grains. But those are the big ones. If you ferment any of those, and some of them are better for fermentation than others because some of them have higher sugar content than others. Some of them have higher starch content, and as long as you can convert the starch from starches to sugars, you're good to go. But the ones that have higher sugar content, like say corn or sorghum or malted barley, those all are very good. Malted barley, but not plain barley, but malted barley. Those are all really good on their own. Rye has a moderately high sugar content, I think. It's less, but it's less starch. There's more sugar to starch, but it's kind of balanced between the two. The one that's probably the highest starch content on its own is corn. Barley has a fairly high starch content until it starts to malt. The malting process releases an enzyme called beta amylase that converts starches to sugars and takes those starches that are in the seed and converts them to sugar so that the plant has something to consume and grow. Okay, so that's science content. I'll get away from that. So any cereal grain you've got, that's good. Then you distill it up to 160 proof, which is 80% alcohol by volume. That's the highest distillation or the highest average distillation you go in your run. So you can start off at a much higher proof, but you got to end at a much lower proof so that your wash is fully and totally mixed in at less than a 160 proof. We usually distill our whiskeys at about 150, give or take. 150 to 155 is about where we end up our runs. So once that's done, it goes into the barrels, and it goes into the barrels at no higher than 125 proof. So you have to add water to the whiskey to bring that proof down to 125, at least 125, and then I think I have that backwards. I think it has to be no more than. Hold on, let me double check that. Y'all are gonna fucking correct the hell out of me. Go right ahead. I look this up every time every single time I do a distillation run. At proof. Every single time I do a distillation run, I look it up just to make sure that I don't get it wrong. What proof is whiskey barreled at? 125 proof or lower. So yeah, no more than 125. We shoot for right at 125. That's the general plan that we go for. 125 is our target, and we're within a couple of degrees either way. But 125 is our target when it goes in the barrel. But it has to be no higher than. Did I say no higher than or no lower than? Yeah, no higher than 125 proof. So you can put it in at 115 if you need to. If we need to fill up a couple of extra barrels, and we're just a little. I mean, it's not going to be a couple of extra barrels. If we're at like 1.5 or 2.5 or 3.5 barrels, we'll add a little bit of water to bring to the whole batch to bring it up to 3 barrels or 4 barrels or wherever we're at, but just a little. I mean, we're not going to knock it down from 125 to 105 or anything like that. We'll knock it down from 125 to 120 in order to get the extra 5 gallons of volume that we need, or half gallon of volume that we need. So no greater than 125 when it goes in the barrel. These are the broad general rules for whiskeys in general. No greater than 125, and then once it's done aging, goes into the bottle at no less than 80 proof. Now, with the aging rules, there's no minimum rule for aging whiskey except for straight whiskey. Straight whiskey has to be at least 2 years. If you put an age statement on your barrel or on your bottle, it has to be aged at least that much, and you have to have an age statement if it's over. You have to have an age statement if it's over 4 years. God damn it. I'm doing all this shit from memory. I should know this stuff by heart, but I have to look it up every single time I do it. We don't have an age statement if it's over 7 years, or if it's under 4 years. There's a rule for having an age statement. I don't remember what it was. Bourbon School, you can correct me. Tater Don, you bourbon tubers, whiskey tubers can correct me. But that's the age statement. There's, generally speaking, with bourbon, with rye, there's no requirement for the minimum amount of time it has to be in a barrel, unless it's called straight whiskey, and then it has to be in the barrel for at least 2 years. Or if you have an age statement, it has to be in the barrel for at least as long as that age statement says that it's in the wood. Finally, the question that I get asked all the time when we're doing our tastings, all the questions that we get, what's the difference between whiskey and bourbon? What's the difference between scotch and whiskey? I don't like scotch, I only like whiskey. I don't drink bourbon, I only drink scotch. That's fair. I don't drink bourbon, I like whiskey. Okay, look, bourbon is whiskey. Scotch is whiskey. Scotch is a particular type of whiskey. For our purposes in the United States, all we really need to know is that Scotch is made in Scotland. You don't need to know anything more than that. It's generally, it's almost always malted barley. I think it's probably 100% malted barley all the time, everywhere you go. There's blended Scotch and single malt Scotch. Single malt Scotch comes from a single distillery, a single batch, single distillery. It doesn't get blended with other types. Blended whiskeys in general are when you have multiple whiskeys that come, or a single whiskey that's blended from multiple distilleries. So generally in the United States, we don't have a lot of blended whiskeys unless it's from an independent distiller that buys a bunch of sourced product and blends it all together into a blended whiskey. In Scotland, you have specific blended scotches where blending houses will buy 25 or 35 or 65 different whiskeys, bring them all together, blend them into a single batch, and make a blended whiskey. But you can also buy those single expressions that go into those blends. You can buy them independently, and they're called single malt scotches. Ardbeg, Highland, Glen. What are the Glens? Glenloch. Probably most of the Glens. Glenloch, Glenmoray, Glenbegan. All these guys. They have a version of their whiskey that they send off to the blenders, and a version of their whiskey that they send to their own bottling room. So you can buy the single malt version, or you can buy the single malt version that's in the blend, the blended version. What you get with a blend is a more stable, more consistent liquor. So when you're working in smaller batches, you can have variations between barrels, you can have variations between batches, you can have variations between years. But when you're blending together thousands and thousands and thousands of barrels, thousands of gallons, all those blends come together and they form a very stable flavor profile. And you can pretty much expect J&B to taste like J&B every time you pull a bottle of J&B. But over the course of the years, Highland might change just a little bit in their flavor. Just a little bit, not noticeable. I've noticed with my whiskeys that we have variations between months, years, and even barrels that we use. But in general, it tastes the same. It's just color, minor variations if you know what you're looking for. But there you go. So we don't really get that a lot in the United States, especially with the big corporate producers, because the big corporate producers make as much as they want, and they blend together barrels, but it's not technically a blended whiskey. Where else were we going? So we got bourbon. Let's talk about the specialties of bourbon. So Scotch is made in Scotland. You really don't need to know anything more about that. Bourbon is made in the United States. Ask anybody from Kentucky, and they will tell you the wrong information. Oh, it has to be made in Kentucky. No. Good bourbon can be made anywhere in the country. Uh, shitty bourbon can be made anywhere in the country too. It can also be made in Kentucky. A lot of shitty bourbon comes out of Kentucky, but a lot of really great bourbon comes out of Kentucky. Everywhere else in the country is the same situation. You get a lot of shitty bourbon, a lot of really good bourbon. Or a little bit of good bourbon. It's probably more accurate. A little bit of good bourbon comes from everywhere else. A lot of shitty bourbon comes from everywhere else. Same thing in Kentucky. A little bit of good bourbon comes from Kentucky. A lot of shitty bourbon comes from Kentucky. 2 to 4 years. It has to state the age of the youngest juice. There you go. No age statement. Yeah, I knew there was this weird vagary with the age statement. So 2 to 4 years, it has to state their age requirement. Less than 2 years, it doesn't have to state it. 2 to 4 years, it has to state it. Over 4 years, it doesn't have to state it. Cheers, David Bass. Nice to see you, my man. Okay, so bourbon is going to be made in the United States. It's going to be mostly corn. It's going to have no additives, no preservatives, no coloring, no flavoring. So, when you see the flavored bourbons, they can't call that stuff bourbon whiskey. It's not bourbon whiskey. It's bourbon whiskey flavored with or flavored bourbon whiskey. They have to say that it's flavored bourbon whiskey. You can't get peach bourbon whiskey. There's no such thing. Peach flavored bourbon whiskey, that you can have. All right? That's a very important distinction. It's a very important distinction. Because you can take bourbon whiskey and flavor it. You can take bourbon whiskey and finish it in another cask. You can take bourbon whiskey, which by the way is the proper term legally. You can take bourbon whiskey and do all kinds of shit to it, but you have to say bourbon whiskey finished in, or bourbon or peach flavoring in bourbon whiskey, or whatever. You can't just call it bourbon whiskey because it is not just bourbon whiskey. And boy, howdy, when Crown Royal went and made their fucking Crown Royal bourbon mash shit that they caught 9 kinds of hell from the bourbon industry here in the States, and various cola warriors who just jumped their case because it was very, very misleading. The Crown Royal was using a bourbon mash. You can't use a bourbon mash, Crown Royal. Y'all are from Canada, and you all suck. Which was very disconcerting because they said you all, like some kind of fucking moving van company or something. So anyway, bourbon has to be made in the United States. At least 50% corn. Straight bourbon has to be aged 2 years. Between 2 and 4 years, have to have an age statement. After 4 years, it doesn't have to have an age statement. But that's consistent for all whiskeys. Bottled and bond has to be at least 100 proof. Has to be bottled by the same person who distilled it in the same property where it was distilled. And there's a couple other vagaries too. With when you read the labels tell you so much good information. They tell you so much good information. For example, this label right here, an independent distiller here in Texas. This label says it's 92 proof, so I know how much alcohol is in this bottle. It says it is a commemorative bottle sold at the distillery, which is cool. It says aged, selected, and bottled by, which means it wasn't distilled by these guys. It was aged in their distillery. It was bottled in their distillery, and the barrels were selected by their distillery. Um, what else does it say? It says it doesn't have an age statement, which tells me it is either more than 4 years or less than 2 years. Um, it is made in Texas. It tells me about the barrels. White oak barrels, Texas climate, so it was aged in Texas, gracefully aged to perfection in the state of Texas. It also says that according to the Surgeon General, women should not drink alcoholic beverages. So I'm good because I'm not a woman. While pregnant. While pregnant. This is perfectly safe for men. Just if you're a woman while pregnant, you cannot drink that. Or if you're a man operating, or a human being operating heavy machinery. Otherwise, it's perfectly safe. So, it works out great for everybody. Where was I? The other styles of whiskey. So let's talk about the other styles. We got rye, we got Canadian, we've got Irish, we've got Scotch, we've got wheat whiskey, we've got rice whiskey, we've got corn whiskey. Corn whiskey is at least 50% corn. It's usually much higher content in corn. Thanks, Tom. Thanks, David. By the way, I appreciate that. Appreciate the congratulations. Um, corn whiskey is at least 50% corn. It's usually much higher corn, and it has to be aged in used barrels. It doesn't have to be aged for any particular amount of time in used barrels. In fact, it doesn't even have to be aged in barrels. If it's going to be aged in barrels, it has to be aged in used barrels. But it doesn't have to be aged at all. Corn whiskey is the only whiskey that does not have to be aged. Bourbon can go in the top of the barrel and out of the bottom of the barrel in the same day. You can take a 5-gallon barrel and age 1,000 gallons of whiskey. As long as it's going through the barrel, you're good. Uh, 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 true story. True story. You can just open up the top, pour it in, and have a hole in the bottom, and it'll go right through. Most companies won't do that. Even Jim Beam, when they sell their Ghost Bourbon, the clear stuff, that's aged 1 year in a 50-gallon barrel. What else do we got? Okay, rye whiskey is at least 50% rye, and there's two general types of rye that you'll find on the market. There's the Maryland rye and Pennsylvania rye. Pennsylvania rye is 90 to 95% rye. Maryland rye is 55% rye and 50 to 45% corn. I'm personally not a big fan of the half and half, but that just means I haven't had a half and half that I like. The heavy rye, our rye is a heavy rye, 95% Pennsylvania style rye. The whiskey rebellion of 1792 was a rye whiskey. That is the original type of whiskey made in the United States. Rye is a grain that grows on marginal soil. You can dump rye grains out of the back of your wagon, and it'll grow on the side of the road. Rye would grow anywhere. There was an abundance of rye. They had more rye than they knew what to do with. They would use their good fields to plant corn and wheat and all the good stuff. On their marginal fields on the other side of the hill, they got limited sun, or it was too wet or too dry or whatever. That's where they grew their rye. And they always had more rye than they needed. They could use the rye for the cheap bread. They could use the rye for the beers. But most of the rye that they had left over would go to the stills, and they would make whiskey out of their rye. Washington County, PA is the home of the Whiskey Rebellion. That is right. Pennsylvania rye. That is the original American whiskey was American rye. In fact, the original whiskeys outside of Scotland, as alcohol began moving its way into Western Europe and eventually crossing the Channel, when they started developing whiskey as a style, it was rye, because it was popularized and blew up and became a huge thing in Scotland. Scotland and Ireland made the first known whiskeys. But the first whiskeys before Scotland and Ireland did it were rye. And there's a reason why Scottish and Irish whiskeys are more popular than rye, because they taste better. I'm not going to lie. They taste better. Unless you know what you're doing and you do it right and you make a really fucking good rye that happens to win silver medals, at the Texas Whiskey Fest. If you know what you're doing and you make good rye, you make rye that tastes better than Scotch. Anyway, that said, enough tooting my own horn. I'm gonna pull a muscle in my back so I can moan dick with like that. So what's next? You got rye, you got corn. Canadian. Canadian whiskey is not a defined style. Well, it's a defined style of whiskey in the NAFTA codes. It's a defined style of whiskey colloquially. But it's a regional distinction and not a style distinction, because Canadian whiskey generally has rye whiskey in it, but one of the reasons why we defined rye whiskey in our codes in the early 1900s is because people were calling alcohols whiskey, vodka, rum, and they would distill it with whatever they wanted to. So we had to legally create laws in the United States that separated rum from whiskey, from rye whiskey. You could take a fistful of rye and throw it into your wash and call it rye whiskey, but that wasn't rye whiskey. It didn't follow a style of rye. It wasn't rye. And that's one of the reasons why Canadian whiskey, while it is predominantly a rye-based whiskey, is not always rye whiskey. You can't count on Canadian whiskeys to be 50 or more percent rye, because Canadian whiskeys don't always follow that same rule that we follow here in the United States. Unless the label says, in the United States, unless the Canadian whiskey label says specifically that it is a Canadian rye whiskey, you can't count on that whiskey to include 50% or more rye. It might have some rye. Crown Royal has a significant portion of rye in it, because rye is a very northern, our entire whiskey industry moved basically to Canada during Prohibition. But that doesn't mean that they use predominantly rye in all of their stuff. They use varying degrees of rye in their mash bills. Some places use more than others. JB Weiser uses more rye than definitely more rye than Crown Royal, and Canadian Crown, and Seagram's 7, and all these other Canadian. I think Seagram's is a Canadian drink. I can't fucking remember. I did not prepare much for this. I really didn't. I'm doing most of this shit from memory. Anyway, I'm just gonna pour myself another fucking drink. But that's pretty much. What else is there? Rice whiskey. Holy shit, rice whiskey. I almost left that out. That's going to be one of our next brands coming out in the next couple of years. Rice whiskey is made from, as you might guess, oatmeal. I'm kidding. It's made from rice. Rice whiskey is made from rice. It is a traditional whiskey style from, guess where? Japan. But rice whiskey generally tastes. Do I have some over here? Whoosh. Nope. Do I have any? No, that's rum. Ollie Ollie Oxenfree. Where's my rice whiskey at? Where's my rice whiskey at, bitches? Do I have some down here? Ah, here it is. Rice whiskey generally tastes like Scotch. Why does rice whiskey taste like Scotch, Old Humble Guy, you might ask? Well, I'd love to tell you. Thanks for asking. Because rice has a very similar flavor profile to malted barley. Rice and malted barley have very similar flavor profiles. And when you age rice whiskey in multiple casks, like Islay casks, you finish it in an Islay cask. Looky there. You finish rice whiskey in an Islay cask, guess what it's going to taste like? An Islay whiskey. Right. And these guys, they'll blend together sherry casks. The Japanese people love Scotch. Scotch was huge. They love it so much. Like Suntory bought huge inventory volumes of Scotch, and it came over there, and they aged it over in Japan, and they have single malt Japanese whiskey till the cows come home. They bought so much Scotch that they put a crimp in the Scotch supply in Scotland. but their own indigenous industry of whiskey production was originally made using rice. They had leftover rice. They made rice. Their rice whiskey production. They liked Scotch so much that their rice whiskey production was aged in similar format, similar barrels, similar time, similar style, and they had a similar climate through most of Japan as Scotland, and they were able to replicate, significantly replicate the flavors that you get from Scotch in rice whiskey. And rice whiskey, oh my God, I get so excited when I talk about this because rice whiskey is such this cool like explosion of flavor in your mouth. You don't expect it because you've had rice. I've had rice. We've all had rice. It tastes like nothing. It tastes like you're getting full. That's it. It doesn't taste like anything. It tastes like water on your tongue. It is bland, it's boring, it's dumb. It's terrible. Rice is the worst fucking food. But when you boil it and you ferment it and you distill it and then you age it, here's a really cool thing about it. Because it doesn't have flavor, it just absorbs all those yummy flavors. So you put it in a bourbon cask, you put it in a sherry cask, you put it in a port cask. I mean, if you like that sort of garbage, sherry and port is uh, wine barrels, scotch barrels. You put it in those barrels and it just absorbs those flavors and it blends them together and mixes them up. And then you put them in another barrel and you finish it in an Islay or a barrel, or a bourbon barrel or a rye barrel. Oh my God. You get this just explosion of flavors just layered on top of each other. And there's a reason why true Japanese rice whiskey costs $75 a bottle. There is a reason for that, and the reason is because it is fucking delicious. Don't waste your money on the Japanese single malts. Don't waste your money on that shit. It tastes like Scotch. Go fucking buy Scotch. Go spend your money on a Glenmorangie or a Lochmabegan or Mockabaguben or whatever fucking Scottish words they use. Go spend your money on that shit. Don't waste your money on Japanese single malts. Waste your money on Japanese rice whiskey because goddamn that shit is fine. That is some good stuff. That is some good stuff. And if you've really got some money to waste, go waste your money on some Texas rice whiskey because we're right behind them. We're coming on strong. Because you know who started the rice industry in the state of Texas? Yeah, some Japanese dude named Matsukori. Yeah, some Japanese dude named Matsukori came to Texas, looked around on the Gulf Coast and said, yeah, this'll do. But he said it in Japanese because he didn't speak English. And then whoosh, the whole Gulf Coast from Corpus Christi all the way up to Port Aransas and Lake Charles over into Louisiana and up through Beaumont into the Big Thicket, all the way up into Natchitoches and Nacogdoches. All that's rice country. And that's delicious rice. The best damn rice you ever had. Yeah, it tastes like nothing. It's bland. It tastes like nothing. It tastes like paste in your mouth. But it makes great fucking whiskey. Absolutely fantastic whiskey. It's full of starch. Full of starch. Absolutely full of starch. And use that fungus stuff to convert that starch over to sugars. And then boom, you've got, oh, mm, yeah, that's the shit. That is the absolute shit. You're gonna want some of that in your mouth. Damn right you are. Damn. Mm. Okay, where was I? We've done rye, we've done Canadian, we've done bourbon, we've done corn. I think that pretty much covers them. That pretty much covers them all. Um, oh, we've got absinthe, which is cordials. That was the other one that I was going to do. Cordials. So cordials is any kind of alcoholic beverage that's less than I think it's around 35% proof. It's less than full proof. So 50 proof, less than 80 proof is where you go into your cordials range. That's your Bailey's. Um, Absinthe can be either the absinthe cordial or the neutral grain absinthe, the high proof shit. Um, oh, Irish whiskey. Yeah, I left off Irish whiskey. Irish whiskey is also mostly a geography and less of a style, but Irish whiskey is almost a derivative of Scotch. So you have Irish whiskey and Scotch whiskey. But Irish whiskey, the industry in Ireland was decimated, absolutely decimated by British rule. Um, the smaller producers in Ireland were pushed out of business, arrested, put to death, driven off the island, and most of them came over to the United States. But that was way, way, way back when in the 1700s. Most of the Irish whiskeys we get in the United States is big corporate stuff. There is a very rich and thriving industry locally in Ireland, more so now than has ever been in the past 50 years. But what you get in Ireland is mostly a style that is triple pot distilled, malted barley, malted barley for the base, but their distinctive style when it comes to the distillation process is triple distilled, triple pot distilled whiskeys. There's a bourbon distillery in Kentucky. These guys, the McNeely family distillery. McNeely family distillery, as you can guess, a bunch of Irishmen in Appalachia. They triple pot distill their bourbon. So it's an Irish style American bourbon whiskey, which makes for a fantastic flavor. I think I drank that bottle in like a week. It was fucking amazing. Absolutely amazing whiskey. It's not generally heavily peated like what you'll get over in Scotland, but there's a few that you can find that are more peated. The most peated Irish whiskey is still not even close to a Scotch. That was a Connacht Irish some fucking Irish word Irish whiskey. But that's generally what you get with an Irish whiskey. You get a lighter texture. The triple pot distilled function gives you a lighter texture because it goes through a pot still, and then they take that distillate and water it down, and they run it through another pot still. And they'll take that distillate. They may not water it down the first time, but they'll usually water it down the second time because you start getting up in higher proofs. You put that to heat, you might light on fire. So they run it through the still the first time to get it up to maybe 60 proof or so, 30% alcohol by volume. They'll run it through the still a second time to get it up to about 120 proof, and then they may add some water to it to bring it back down to 100, then distill it a third time. That third distillation brings it up to about 160 proof. And the process of running it through those three stills gets all impurities out of the alcohol, but it also leaves behind a lot of flavor from that wash, which is why a lot of times their Irish whiskeys will have this light, smooth, easy drinking kind of flavor. They're not unlike my straight whiskeys over here. My purple label, very clear in the light. Man, that is beautiful. Goddamn. I make beautiful labels. Not unlike my straight whiskey, where it has a light, sweet finish to it, and that's the goal of that whiskey is to have a light, sweet finish to it, so that it would drink like an Irish whiskey. Because most of your Irish whiskeys are going to be, like I said, light and sweet. They're not all going to be like that. I mean, there are a few of them that are proudly peated, but they are few and far between. Oops, I'm checking something over here on my studio. Where are we at? Are we at 2009? We're at 2008. We need 2 goddamn subscribers to get to 2010. To see that number move, we need 2 subscribers. Right there. 2 subscribers. 2, motherfuckers. Okay, have I covered everything? We've covered our cordials. Gin, cordials, gin, whiskey, rum, vodka, cordials, whiskey, cognac, brandy. I haven't turned on my. There you go. Does that cover everything? Alcohol styles, whiskey styles. I think we covered all the whiskey styles. Have I left any out? Because we can open it up to chat now. I'm gonna go teach children tomorrow. Tomorrow at 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock, I hit the road and go to Austin. I have another 6-hour commute tomorrow. I go to Austin. We're going to go ahead and kick it over to chat. That is the monologue for today. That's our whiskey styles. I hope you learned something. Hope you enjoyed it. At the very, very least, I hope you were entertained. If you were even moderately entertained, hit the subscription button. Hit the if you're moderately entertained and or educated, hit the subscription button. Hit the thumbs up. Do all the things that you're supposed to do that good YouTubers ask people to do, and I always forget to do. Move me. I'm trying to center myself on the screen. There, that's good. All right, let's move to the next scene with chat. There we are. Up above my head is the Whiskey Mini Fest that we have on May 20th. Down below me is the subscriber count. I am looking for this to tick up to 2010 before I sign off for the night. And over here to my left, your right, is chat. I will be highlighting the chat where we're at. Moving back to the last. I'm gonna go back and peruse chat to find out if I missed anything. How many people we got on the show now? Like 10? Cool. I'm going to scroll back, see if there was anything that I missed. Okay, this is where I was talking about turnip sugar, brandy number 6. Brandy number 6. Now, one of the fuck was that? I dropped the thing over there. Oh, that was my music box. All right. So one of the things that we have on our menu of future items to have at the distillery is a peach brandy. A peach brandy that was the recipe that my great-great-great-grandfather, Jean-Philippe, used at his distillery and vineyard in Natchitoches, Louisiana. Jean-Philippe was an old Frenchman. He came to the United States in 1830. He came to the United States in 1830. He moved to Shreveport in 1835 and got property in the Natchitoches area. Natchitoches is about 90 minutes outside of 60 minutes outside of between 30 and 90 minutes outside of Shreveport. And he got himself some property from a homestead property in Natchitoches on the south coast of what is now known as Breda Lake. There is a lake in Natchitoches called Breda Lake. There is an area in Natchitoches called Breda Town, which was the vineyard. And let's be completely honest, it was a plantation. He owned human beings. He was not a good person by today's standards because he did in fact own human beings. But by yesterday's standards in the 1830s, he was just pretty much a Southerner. Nothing special. He did join the right side of the fight after the Civil War. So there is that. In fact, I had a couple of great uncles who were kicked out of Natchitoches, Louisiana, because they were on the wrong side of the Reconstruction fight. My family. I've got people being kicked out of cities all over the place. They were invited to leave and ended up going to Atlanta. Wasn't the last Breda that turned up in Atlanta, but they were the first Bredas that ended up in Atlanta. But yeah, after the Civil War, it's actually written down that they were good Republicans, blah 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 blah. Which back in the 1870s, being a good Republican meant that you were anti-slavery and anti-racism versus what it is today. Anyway, that said, old Jean-Philippe, he had this brandy recipe, and it had peaches and cinnamon and cloves, and it was aged in used bourbon barrels, and it was just this delightful concoction. I've never had a bottle. They had a bottle of it that was in my grandmother's attic, and it went off to one of my uncles, and it has disappeared and been lost to time. But there is a recipe of that we were able to keep. It is written in French. It is handwritten. There are no specific volumes and specific ratios, but it's just kind of written down like this list of things that was put into the barrel to give it the flavor that he was looking for, such as toasted pecans and cinnamon and cloves and star anise and all this other like really cool flavorings. Star anise may not be one of them. I can't remember. But really cool flavorings that went into the barrel to give his brandy the flavor that it had. And it was apparently very popular in the town of Natchitoches, very popular in the province or in the parish, because he was a fairly popular guy. So there you go. We're going to be replicating that 140, 150, 180-year-old. Yeah, it's a 180-year-old recipe. Jesus Christ. It's going to be a 200. It's 190 by now. This 190-year-old recipe. We're going to be resurrecting a 190-year-old recipe for brandy uh, from my great-great-grandfather, Jean-Philippe. Great-great-great. He's a triple great. So yeah, that's one of the reasons why I'm so interested in brandies. But I really haven't found a lot of them that I like. Um, but when I planted my garden, I planted a bunch of fruits and vegetables that I hadn't eaten before. I planted a whole orchard of blackberries before I had even had a blackberry. I planted tomatoes before I had eaten tomatoes. Um, wasn't really a salad eater when I planted my lettuces. Didn't really eat chard when I planted chards. I'm willing to eat what I make and drink what I make. And if I can make a brandy that I like, I am totally down for it. I cannot wait. This can be fun. It really is. It's going to be uh, a fun experiment for me to do. And I'm going to start that experiment this summer because we're right in the middle of peach season right now in Texas, and I am looking forward to getting a big big fucking bucket of peaches for super duper cheap. Um, let's see. I never had a turnip. You are a smart girl. Sunflowers do not eat turnips. Where are we at in chat, by the way? This says 10:17. I went back 45 minutes. I don't think y'all been very active in chat. I think I've been talking mostly. I don't think y'all been chatting a lot. Turnip cake. I remember chat commenting on that. Is this Ting? There's no Ting yet. I haven't seen Ting show her face yet. Um, Sunflowers. I'm sure they will. I'm sure she will, rather. Is this Brian or Lauren? Brian. Lauren's tag is Bourbon School Lauren. Oh, so it's Brian and Lauren. I knew that. I knew that. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. I'm probably gonna catch up to this shit very quick. I remember seeing this uh, with the 2 years. In fact, I commented specifically on that because you were kind enough to help me get my shit straight, and I appreciate that. One bit of housekeeping that I forgot to mention. Tomorrow night, my son's going to bring his computer down. And when he brings his computer down to my office here at the distillery, at the home office of the distillery, I'm going to switch over from my laptop to his computer base station, and I'm going to use his desktop computer to run a sip and chat late night stream tomorrow night. If not tomorrow night, Friday night. I'm not sure which night I'm going to do it, but we're going to run a sip and chat stream tomorrow night using Restream. See how many people we can get on. I believe that my theory. I'm testing my theory that it's CPU and GPU. Just the CPU. His CPU should be able to run the type of chat that I'm looking to run and the type of show that I want to run on late nights. So I'm hoping that my theory will hold true, my hypothesis will hold true, and I will have a very good stream tomorrow or Friday night, whichever night I do it. And we'll have a good show. And it won't have all the laggy, glitchy crap that I've had in the past. There's a distillery down in St. Augustine, Florida, making bourbon whiskey. Have not tried it myself. Okay. Cheers, Mike. I saw your name pop up. I don't know if I said hi, but cheers. I did. I commented on this one. Distillery down in St. Augustine, Florida. What distillery is that? Distillery St. Augustine. Distillery St. August, Estine, Florida. That's the St. Augustine Distillery or Citygate Spirits. There's two distilleries. Sailbird Distilling Company is also there. But the St. Augustine Distillery is the first one that pops up on the Googles. The first one that pops up on the Googles. And by the way, as I'm moving my way down through chat, feel free to ask questions. If you want me to cover something, you want me to talk something, you want to try and set me off, feel free. Put your comments in, put your questions in. I will get to them, I promise. You'll drink rye whiskey before you scotch. Yeah, scotch. Okay, so scotch was my introduction to whiskey. And what I liked about scotch was that every bottle of scotch that I had tasted a little bit different. What I didn't like about bourbon at the time was that every bottle of bourbon that I had tasted about the same. And this was always my criticism of bourbon before I started making whiskey, was that bourbon kind of tasted the same. But once I went to a bourbon tasting, I realized that the bourbons all came, most of the bourbons that I had tried in the past had all come from roughly the same geographic area, roughly the same barreling, roughly the same grain mash bill, roughly the same everything. And when you put all that stuff together with the very little variances between the different whiskeys, of course they all kind of tasted the same. And in some cases, they actually came from the same distillery. So, of course they all kind of tasted the same, not exactly the same, but they all kind of had the same similar flavor profile and similar experience on the tongue. So, like, generally speaking, I wasn't a big fan of bourbon, but every time I had a scotch, it was a different flavor, it was a different profile, it was a different characteristic in your mouth. You could taste the sherry, you could taste the porter, it was longer aged or shorter aged, or it was heavily peated or lightly peated, or very smoky or not very smoky, or it was dry or it was sweet, or all the different styles that you had from Scotland, from the different geographic uh, experiences that the whiskey had within the barrel. But when you come from the same geographic climate zone in Kentucky, you're not going to get a vast difference. But what hooked me to bourbon was when I went to this bourbon tasting, and there was a Texas whiskey and a California whiskey and a Colorado whiskey and a New York whiskey and a couple of Kentucky whiskeys, and I was just like, holy shit! This is five different whiskeys and four different, drastically different flavors, and a fifth flavor that's a little bit different, but not a lot different. But they did something with the barreling, and you could tell. And then I started learning more about it. Like, I want to do this when I grow up. That's how I became a whiskey distiller. But Scotch was my introduction to that, because Scotland has these four drastically different. They're Highlands and Lowlands and Islay and Orkney Island distillation and aging regions that are drastically different. Kentucky has one aging zone. That's it. It's called Kentucky. That's it. They don't have a vast differentiation between their climates from point A to point B anywhere in the state. They're mostly the same. Whereas in Texas, you have the Gulf Coast. You have the Gulf Coast with the salty sea air. You have Dallas. You have Houston, which is a little bit. It doesn't have the salty sea air, but it has the humidity and the heat and the vast temperature ranges that we get during the spring and fall and in some cases the winter. Then you have the hill country and you have West Texas. You have these huge variations between our distillation and aging regions. And then if you want to get outside of Texas, you have New Mexico, which is so vastly different than Florida, which is so vastly different from New York, which is so vastly different from Colorado, which is so vastly different from Michigan. I mean, you don't get dropped down in Michigan and think you're in Colorado. You know you're not in Colorado. You're not in Kansas and looking around going, where are the mountains at? You know you're in fucking Kansas because you can see the other end of the state. And that comes through in the aging and all the other stuff. And the regional variances and the regional differences that we used to have prior to Prohibition, using oak and using French oak and using pecan wood and using mesquite and using scrub oak and using hickory and hickory and using all the different like regional variations of smoke and wood, and it's just like barbecue. Your North Carolina, South Carolina barbecue, your Tennessee barbecue, your Kentucky barbecue, your Missouri barbecue, your Texas barbecue, so vastly different. And the whole South with the different expressions of grits. Holy shit! From South Carolina to Texas, you get different grits, for crying out loud. And grits is just like the husk of a hominy seed. And you can have a different expression of grits for across 5 states. Are you kidding me? Think what they could do with whiskey. Like the whole American whiskey scene is in its infancy. It was so cool to be able to taste the differences. But yeah, that was the thing that hooked me to Scotch. It was that it tasted different every time I drank a bottle, and that's what I love about craft whiskey. more than the corporate whiskey because the corporate whiskey all kind of tastes the same. Craft whiskey, holy shit, it tastes so different. Every bottle, even different bottles from the same manufacturer can taste different. You don't get that with a Wild Turkey. The Wild Turkey bottle is going to taste like a Wild Turkey bottle. And a special label of Wild Turkey is going to taste like a Wild Turkey bottle. It's going to taste like Wild Turkey. But craft whiskeys, man, every damn bottle of craft whiskey you drink is going to have a different flavor. Every damn one of them. But yeah, for some that is an acquired taste. For others, it is a fucking taste explosion in their mouth, and they just cannot get enough. Someone sent a sample to us. It was called the Saint, barrel proof and finished in old fashioned cask. It was decent, but after the price tag. Centauri Hibiki, Japanese whiskey. You've never had Japanese whiskey. You should have Japanese whiskey. I'm endorsing Japanese whiskey wholeheartedly with my full chest. Japanese rice whiskey is fucking amazing. Absolutely. And you got to look at the label too, because the label will tell you distilled from rice. If it doesn't say distilled from rice, it's probably a single malt. Do not buy that whiskey. Distilled from rice, traditional Japanese rice whiskey. That's what you want to buy, and it's gonna be costly. The cheapest bottle of traditional Japanese rice whiskey I've found, $70. The cheapest is $70. I'm sure y'all can probably find it cheaper because y'all are better at shopping than I am. I'm lazy, but that's what you're in for. A lot of stuff's not available. Oh, guess what, Mike? Speaking of not being available in your state, I have signed a document. Where's that document? This document right here. I have signed a document that is going to make it possible for me to sell my whiskey from my website and have it delivered to your door. Let me say that again in a conspiratorial tone. I have signed a document that is going to make it possible for you to buy whiskey from my website and have it delivered to your door. How you like that, baby? Oh yeah. Oh yeah. All right. More on that later. That is not an official announcement. We're working on the details. It will be coming out. We'll have the button on our website in the next couple of weeks, I hope. Lauren, PA. Even the bars and restaurants have to buy through state stores. Oh, that sucks. Because like here in Texas, the bars and restaurants have to buy from a licensed retailer. Got to go teach children. Cheers, Bourbon School. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for coming out. I appreciate it. I really do. We've dropped down from 8 to 4. That's fine. It was fun. Thanks, Tater. I appreciate it, Dom. Talk to you later, man. Are we done? Have I caught up in chat? I'm fucking caught up in chat. What time is it? 11:15. So I've got to travel to Austin tomorrow. I got to go to Austin tomorrow at no later than 11 o'clock, and that's 11 o'clock if I drive fast. I would much rather leave about 10:30, give myself a little time. So what I'm going to be doing tomorrow is I've got 2 tastings tomorrow. 2 tastings tomorrow. 2 tastings tomorrow at 11 o'clock and... No, I'm sorry, at 2 o'clock and 5 o'clock. So I need to be in Austin by 2 o'clock, which means I need to leave Houston by 11 o'clock because it is a 3-hour trip. And in Texas, a 3-hour commute to work is not outrageous. It's not smart, but it's not outrageous. Like, there's plenty of people, like, no kidding, no fooling, no bullshit. There's plenty of people who live in Austin and work in Houston. There's more people who work in Houston and or live in Houston and work in Austin because it's cheaper to live in Houston than it is to Austin. There's a lot of people that work remotely from Houston in Austin. They work in Austin, but they live in Houston and they do it remotely. And then they either fly to Austin or drive to Austin 3 times a month, 4 times a month in some cases. No bullshit, true story. There's not as many people who do that with Houston and Dallas because I don't think that Dallas's cost of living is that much more than Houston's cost of living. So, and Dallas is 4 hours and change away from Houston. But when they do finally finish this high-speed rail between Houston and Dallas, there will be more people living in Houston and working in Dallas, and more people working in Dallas or living in Dallas and working in Houston than ever before, because the train trip between Houston and Dallas is only going to be about 90 minutes, which makes the train trip between Houston and Dallas less than the car trip between Houston and Austin. And boy, I tell you what, a 90-minute trip to Dallas, when all I got to do when I get to Dallas is get an Uber and go to the, hang out at the train station for 30 minutes, get an Uber and go to the Specs where I'm going to be doing my tasting. Man, I'm going to be doing a lot more fucking tastings in Dallas than I am in Austin. Absolutely. And I say when, not if, because I fully expect this thing to come to fruition. Fully expect it to come to fruition. I'm going to do a quick thing while I'm here. I'm going to go to Ike's stream, and I'm going to link bomb to try and get these last 2 subs. We need 2 more subs. And then I'm going to give my link, share, copy link, because he's got people over there. Not many. I'm just going to fucking raid his, it's not even a raid. It's just me going over being an asshole. Help. I'm gonna be just shameless. Help. I'll come hang in 40 minutes. All right. Now let's see if that moves from 2000 to 2100 or 2010 rather. Let's see if that happens. All right, switch over to my monitoring. All right, that's that. I'm waiting for this to pop to 2010. This one right here. I watched it go to 2008 earlier today. So we're just gonna watch. We're just gonna watch. Okay, so tomorrow night is Austin. Tomorrow's Austin. Friday, I'm at the distillery. I've got a shit ton of work to do at the distillery. We're gonna start our construction. I'm gonna go live in the morning. Ah, there it is. There it is. There it is. Woo! Nate and Ike have pulled through. Congratulations, Old Humble guy. Thank you. Gonna go give them thanks. Gonna say thanks to those guys. Whoops. That's awesome. Thank you. That's awesome. See, that's fucking awesome. That's fucking awesome. That's fucking awesome. Those guys came through. I just needed 2. Who's here? Tater Dom is here. Awesome. I mean, I've got to get this. I've got to get this through to the 2-hour mark. We started at 10. I'm going to get this through to 10 o'clock, and then I'm going to wrap up. Important things to note. We've got our mini fest on May 20th. If you're in town, come live. If you're not in town, if you can't make it live, there's only going to be about 130 bottles of our blackout bourbon available. Where is it? Over here. Our blackout bourbon available. There's only going to be about 130 to 150 bottles available. I don't expect we're going to sell out, but people in person get preferential treatment. If you can't be there in person and you want it delivered, give me a heads up and we'll make it happen. If we have supplies enough to make it happen. If we don't have supplies enough to make it happen, we can substitute with another bottle. But we can make it happen. And next month, May 2023, we are going to be able to, according to this document right here that I have in my hot little hands, my formerly nicotine-stained hands, as Rush Limbaugh would say, that gives me the ability to sell whiskey from my website and have it delivered to your door anywhere in the country, including Washington State, Oregon State, California State, New Mexico, Arizona, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, Florida, Georgia, Tennessee, Kentucky, South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, Maryland, Delaware, New York State, Ohio, Indiana, Colorado. Have I left any out? Yes, I've left out several states, but those states aren't important. These are the states where you people are located. Wisconsin, Wyoming, Montana, probably. I don't know. Maybe. Where else? Pennsylvania. Yes, you'll be able to buy my whiskey in Pennsylvania and have it delivered to your door. Door. And then all you got to do is say, yes, please, and then sign a piece of paper or digital tablet, whatever, and they'll say, here's your whiskey. And they'll leave. You don't even have to give them food. You don't have to give them food. You don't have to give them money. You don't have to give them a drink or nothing. They're just like, here, have your box. And you say, thank you. And they say, you're welcome. Have a great day. And they go get back in their truck and they leave. And you'll never see that guy again. It's not like he's going to come back in a couple of weeks and say, hey, were you happy with my service? Do you miss me? Why don't you call? No, because that'd be creepy as fuck. Those guys don't do that shit. Yeah, they just, here's my box. And then they leave. You don't even need another name. You don't even need to ask them who they are because they don't care if you know who they are. In fact, most of them don't want you to know who they are because they're ashamed of their lives. Actually, that's probably not true. That's probably a step too far. I probably spoke too much. That's not true. They're proud of their life and they're doing a great service by delivering boxes to people, and I appreciate their employment and their work and what it is that they do. If it weren't for them, I wouldn't have deodorant because I get my deodorant delivered every 2 months to my house. Pack of deodorant every 2 months. I have 4 boys in this house. And me, my 3 sons. There's 4 of us. My lovely wife, she just smells like fucking roses. I don't know how she does what she does. But, she just wakes up and she smells like fucking roses. She's amazing. She looks like a goddamn dream. She smells like roses. She's just amazing. And here's the even funnier thing. She doesn't listen to this. So all the wonderful, terrific things I say about her, she never hears them. I have to repeat them to her in person. But she knows I think she smells like roses. I'm going to bug her real quick. I'm going to text her, see if she's up. She's not. It's 11:30 in Texas. She's going to be like, where are you bothering me? Check again. Lisa Lenny says hi. You up? I'm going to give her the classic you up email. Or you up text. See? This was me. You up? Can you read that? Is it focus? God, this camera sucks. You have 3 ting ting. I have 5 of my own. I follow myself 5 times. Thank you, Ting Ting. Welcome to the party, by the way. I'm going to have a full-on sip and chat forum either tomorrow night or Friday night. So stay tuned. If you haven't hit the notification bell, hit the notification bell. My random lives happen during the middle of the day when I have work to do. There will be one Friday. Random live on Friday afternoon or morning. I've got definite work to do at the distillery. Today I went and filled my barrels with water to season them and soak them so that they won't leak. But over the next couple of days, I've got more shot glass totes to make, but I'm clearing out the space to start construction on our bathroom for the May 20th event. So that'll start on Friday, along with um, along with some bottling. And well, do I have bottling to do on Friday? No, I won't be doing any bottling. I'll be doing some boxing, but I've got a whole lot of work to do, and I'll be pulling my pump from my chill unit and replacing the gasket along with the gasket seal. So I've got a whole bunch of shit to do on Friday. And it's just random distiller shit. It's not like it's anything. Nah, she's not upset. I has a sad. It's just random distiller shit. It's not like anything that's um, you would expect from a distillery. But it's just like when you have your own business, you learn how to replace windows and build walls and install bathrooms and toilets and electrical lines and all kinds of other shit. You just learn how to do this shit. You have to. You don't have a choice. Um, so I might run my own electrical. Can I do that? Am I even allowed? Am I allowed to run electrical wires as just a dummy? Like, what's stopping me? What is stopping me from doing it? Run wires to a fuse box, to a fuse in the fuse box. Install the fuse, connect the wires, run the conduit around, up, over the door, into the bathroom, lights, light fixture, light fixture, wall socket, wall fixtures. Do I even need a wall fixture? I probably need one wall outlet. Huh. Yeah, I mean, that's doable. That's absolutely doable. Um, you should be able to run your own electrical as long as you do not add a breaker. Yeah, I should. You're right. I should. But I should also be able to do uh, basic mathematical computations in the pre-calculus realm, but I don't know how to do that either. I've never run electrical wires. I've never done it. I've never done it. So I should be able to do it. Like in theory, it's not that complicated. But in practice, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. So I don't know if I can pull that off. I really don't know if I can pull that off. I might just have um, I might just have outside lights shining into the bathroom for people to use the bathroom. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see. I haven't fully solved the bathroom problem at the Old Humble Distilling Company. I haven't quite fully solved that problem, but we're very close to solving that problem. We're very close. It might just be it might just be a $250 electrician charge, or maybe it's a I call a buddy charge, and I don't know if I have any buddies who know how to do a basic electrical. God damn it! This is a skill that I should have. I'm a grown fucking man in the 21st century. I should have this skill of how to run basic electrical wiring. Electricity has been around since the early 1800s, since the mid 1800s. I mean, fucking since the 1700s. Benjamin Franklin was flying fucking kites in the 1700s. I should be able to do this shit. Why can I not run? Why do I not feel confident enough in my own skills? I'm a I'm a goddamn Renaissance man. I've smelted aluminum. I've smelted brass. I've smelted uh, bronze. I've smelted tin. I've done gold. I've done pewter. I've done metal work, for crying out loud. I've I've fabricated knives. I fabricated daggers. It's not a sword. It's a dagger. I've made leather work. I've sewn. I can sew fabric. I can play roughly harmonica. I know how to play trumpet. I know how to play music. I can play a handful of chords on my guitar. I can make whiskey, for crying out loud. I know how to make beer. I know how to make wine. I know how to do all kinds of shit. I can run a home network for my computer. That's 21st century fucking technology right there. But oh my God, running conduits. Why am I so fucking afraid to run wires? Why am I so afraid to run electrical? Is it because electricity can kill you dead? Maybe. Maybe that's why. Maybe it's because I don't understand how the blue smoke makes things work. And if you connect the wrong wires together, the blue smoke escapes from the wires and it makes whoosh. It goes whoosh and it makes bad things happen and you can't put the smoke back into the wires. You have to replace the wires. And I don't understand that concept, that process. I don't get it. But I understand water. I understand plumbing because water is a thing. And if the water escapes the pipes, you can seal the pipes and put the water back in the pipes, and then the pipes work. But if the blue smoke escapes, how does blue smoke become electricity? How does electricity become blue smoke? I don't understand that concept. I'm like a fucking caveman when it comes to electricity. Which is a shame because it's the 21st goddamn century. We are living in the future. I should know how electricity works. I should know how to string together batteries in order to make a circuit, in order to make a current, in order to make charge, in order to make work happen magically. Magic. That's what fucking electricity is to me. It's magic. You connect up some wires to some batteries, and the batteries do well. I don't know what the fucking batteries do. I don't know what's in them, but I know what they do. You connect up the batteries to a thing, and then poof, something spins, something makes a noise, something moves up and down, something lights up. What's in a battery? Zinc. Okay. Copper. Okay. So just magically, zinc and copper come together and make light happen? How the fuck does that happen? I don't understand electricity. I do not understand how electricity works. But I mean, I know that it works. I have light. I have light. This is all electric. We live in an electric world. I don't know how this shit works. And I have a buddy who has fucking built power plants. I know good and goddamn well if you touch the wrong thing that's electrified, you go and your eyes bulge out and you shit your pants. I know that good and goddamn well. I just don't know how I don't know how this shit works. I just don't. So I get like anxious when it comes to connecting up wires to fuse boxes that are connected to nuclear fucking power plants in the middle of central Texas. Like if I do it wrong, it's a nuclear goddamn power plant. If I do it wrong, I could end life as we know it. I mean, that's probably not how it works, but maybe it is. How do you know that's not how it works? I don't know that's not how it works. Anyway, what I'm saying is, I should be able to run electrical myself. I really should. True. That is a true statement. I should. The reality is, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I really don't. I do not know. I do not know even a little bit. And I have a book over here on my bookshelf that says How to Run. Well, maybe I should read that book again. Anyway, the background. Sorry, not really chatting. Congrats on 2K. We hit 210, 2010. We popped 210 with a little help from our friends over on Ike's stream. But seriously podcast. Which I'm going to go harass those people in about 30 minutes probably. 3 followers. Find us on Twitter. You just install an outhouse. We had an outhouse. We did. We had an outhouse for months. The problem is the homeless people in our neighborhood started using it and stinking the whole fucking place up. they were disrespectful to my outhouse. So I got rid of the outhouse. Carrot, carrot, and carrot. Ignore the shark game. That was a big fucking comment right there, sunflowers. Well, now I have to. Love the rants. Thank you. Branching with humble. No, but it's true. Like, I know how water works. Water goes from a big vat, and there's pressure from the water, from the depth of the water, the height of the water in the vessel. It gives you pressure at the bottom, and it comes out the bottom, and and if your pipes are connected properly, it goes through, and it goes through the thing, and you can make it go up and around and over, and it has to have enough volume, enough pressure going down. You can never bring it all the way up to the top. Like, I understand the mechanics of water pressure and um, the mechanics of water pressure, the mechanics of resistance within a pipe. I understand all of that shit, and I've tried to relate my understanding of plumbing to an understanding of electricity, but it's not a one-to-one understanding, because there's resistors, and there's transistors, and there's uh the things that, like, store up electricity and then release it out. What are those things called? They're not conductors. They're uh, 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 it starts with a C. They're made of porcelain. I don't know what they do. They're like spark plugs. You know, they, like, store it up and then shoot it out once at a time. And then there's heat sinks, and then the, like, electricity gets converted with too much resistance, it gets converted to heat, and then what happens? The heat, it causes fires, and then now when you start talking about shit causing fires, plumbing doesn't cause fires. If you force too much water through a hose, like the hose bulges, it doesn't start a fire. You force too much electricity through a wire, it starts a fire. You're fucked. Everybody's dead. You know what happens if I get a fire in my distillery? Boom. Big bada boom. Bad things happen. If I start a fire in my distillery, we're fucked. We're fucked for a 4-block radius. You don't want that. Nobody wants that. I can't fuck up the wiring on electricity because I don't know what I'm doing. I mean, I can absolutely fuck up the wiring because I don't know what I'm doing. I would rather not, obviously. Ugh. Yeah, I can't have fire escaping. I can't have blue smoke escaping and starting fires, and fires make bad things happen. No, no fires allowed at the distillery. You got to smoke outside. Yeah, my beard is looking good. Look at that. A little bit of pepper, a little bit of salt, a lot of salt, a little bit of pepper. I think I'm gonna dye my beard black, brown. I'm gonna get some more. I'm gonna darken this up a little bit. Take away about 10 years, and darken this shit up. Where are we exactly? That subscriber count. That subscriber count is exactly at 2010. Exactly at 2010. They did. I put in the message. I said I need 2 subscribers, and I got 2 subscribers. 2. Exactly 2. That's fucking awesome. Bluebeard. Oh, Jesus Christ. No, Bluebeard. No, I can't do Bluebeard. I mean, this is it's a full beard. It's thick. I mean, look at this. I can grab hold of it and pull. I don't think I want to do Bluebeard though. I hated that. God, you have no idea how much I hated that. I truly, truly, like, there's no way to convey in words in English how much I hated that. The only way I could do it is by inventing my own language and saying it was the blue on my flesh, in my fur, was I'll be right back. Entertain yourselves. Something's happening out here. What are you doing up? All right. It was a minor. Oops. It was definitely a thing. Okay, so here's what I heard. So I'm over here relaxing, doing my show, talking about blue smoke and fire in my distillery and trying to avoid blue smoke and fire. But I hear outside my door what sounds suspiciously like my dog walking around. And at this hour, my dog shouldn't be walking around. My dog should be in bed, my side of the bed, my bed. He should be in my bed, like a fucking asshole, laying on my pillow next to my wife. When I walk into my bedroom, he looks up at me like, "What, bro?" Like, fuck you. That's my bedroom. That's my wife. That's my bed. Get the fuck out of my bed, you asshole. Okay. He gets up and leaves. Anyway, that's where he should be right now. But I hear him tapping around here, which makes me think she got up for some reason and opened the door, and he hears something, and he's curious, and he's walking around, and he's agitated. But no, she just forgot to bring him to bed. So while I was up, I figured I'd get an extra couple of pieces of ice, pour myself a fresh cocktail, and a half. My favorite cocktail, which is a shot of whiskey with another shot of whiskey. So anyway, um, he went to bed. He went to bed. She just forgot to bring him to bed. But anyway, no, I don't think do it's like parking in handicap spaces. That's funny, sunflowers. Um, actually, my diploma is right over here. There it is. Anyway, but what was I saying? Yeah, my lovely wife just forgot to bring my dog to bed because that's what she does. She says, "Well, I guess I'm going to bed," and he goes, "Bed? Okay." So that's what they do. All they do. I did go to U of H Sunflowers. I went to U of H twice, as a matter of fact. I have a class ring, not on this finger, not right now, but I also have a belt buckle for when I graduated, when I got my master's degree. And that is my master's degree. I think it might be my bachelor's degree. I can't remember which one it is. Uh, I should look with my glasses off and see. Uh, that is, yeah, it's a Master of Science, uh, Master of Business Administration, MBA, and then that is my Dean's Award for graduating in the top, whatever, 10% of my class. Top 5%? Whatever. I can't remember what it was. When I got my MBA. So, yeah, that's me bragging ever so slightly. But it's just off camera most of the time, so nobody can ever see it. That's the idea. I can see it, but y'all can't. It's for me. Also, Can you see this? Yep. There it is. My Texas U of H wall hanging. Bum, bum, bum. And I do have a U of H red label that I am working on for a bottle. I got to figure out what I'm going to put in the bottle for the UH red label. I might just do a special edition Boomtown bourbon. Special edition Boomtown bourbon for the University of Houston. See, the real truth is the reason that people put their UH diploma in the dashboard of their car is so that they can park in the boss's parking spot. Ownership has its privileges. Oh, goodness gracious, Mio Mayo. Yeah, so that's what I heard out there. My dog was tapping around. I'm like, what the fuck is going on out there? He shouldn't be up at all. Because I was worried that the door of the bedroom was open for some reason. She is long asleep. She's been asleep probably for an hour and a half. And we will be on for another 15 minutes. I'm wrapping up at midnight. Housekeeping notes to remember. The Old Humble Mini Fest, May 20th. It will not be televised. It will not be televised, but I might broadcast some original music from the Whiskey Fest, the Mini Fest. Maybe. We'll see. Haven't decided yet, but we're going to have Ryan Adam Wells performing, Gail Ryder and Same Old Circles, two favorites of the distillery, and one brand new artist that we've never had on before. Tickets start at $0. But if you want to stay for the music, tickets start at $10 and go up from there. There's commemorative shot glasses to be had, shot glasses and totes. You can buy yourself your bottle ahead of time, and we'll hold it for 30 days. You can reserve a bottle. We'll hold it for 30 days. You won't have to commit, but I'm sorry. You buy a bottle, we'll hold it for 90. You reserve it, we'll hold it for 30. But you got to get in and come pick the damn thing up. I'm not going to ship the fucking thing to you. Unless we can make an arrangement for shipping, then we'll figure it out. We will figure it out. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. You just don't worry about that sort of thing, sweetheart. We'll just figure it out. You just worry about being gorgeous and wonderful and sweet. We'll figure out all the rest. Like, I'll be your man, you be my woman, and we'll just figure out the rest and how everything should work. I'll make you pancakes, you make me bacon, and we'll just do how it needs to be done. You want me to wear leather and you can wear lingerie, we can do that, sweetheart. I'll be strong and you'll be soft, and we'll just do it. We'll figure it out. That's how it'll be. Oh, Christ almighty. I don't even know. It's fucking late. I'm tired. It's been a great week. Like, I kid you not. Like, the last 2 weeks, I've done tastings every single day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I did tastings. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Thursday, I was in Austin. Friday, I was in Austin. Friday night, I came home back to Humble. Saturday morning, we went back out to Austin. Spent the night in Austin, came back Sunday. And then Monday, did some work on my website, signed some contracts, did some distillery stuff. Tuesday, and I got a victory royale. No, that was a Monday. Played a little bit of Fortnite. Tuesday, got a victory royale in Fortnite, signed some contracts, redid our website, reworked our website, and then redid our website, sent out our newsletter, and then Wednesday, that was today, did some distillery work. Got a lot of distillery work done. I have two more projects that I'm working on at the distillery. I've got this cool fucking thing that I'm working on at the distillery. Y'all are gonna love it. I've got a couple of supplies that I still need to get from Amazon. They need to show up. But oh my god, y'all are gonna love this thing. It's gonna be the coolest fucking thing that we've ever done. The coolest thing we've ever done. And I'm going to give one away on the show. Yeah, you're going to love it. Absolutely fucking love it. I've got more of those coming. It's going to be part of the build out of the distillery, build out of the tasting room. This is going to be the coolest thing. This is going to be the absolute fucking coolest thing that we've done. And then finally, what else? Oh shit! Then tomorrow I'm driving to Austin, doing my tastings, coming home. Most of these trips are out and back. It's only a 3-hour drive, so I can be home by midnight. If it's going to be after 2 in the morning, if it's going to be after 2, usually I'll spend the night in whatever location it is. I used to have a rooftop tent on my car, so I could just stop and bed down in the tent. I could get a couple hours head start, bed down in the tent, and a couple hours in the morning I'm home. But in this case, I don't have the rooftop tent on the car right now, so can't do it. So tomorrow I'll be home by midnight, and then maybe we'll do the late night sip and chill. Tomorrow night, maybe we'll hold it off till Friday. But Friday, I'm going to live stream from the distillery. We're going to start with cleaning out the space for the build out, pulling the equipment out of the chiller in order to repair it, and then I mean those are 2 big fucking jobs by themselves. And then we're probably going to go dark because we'll be open to the public and they don't need to be on TV or internet, whatever. And then finally, Saturday is what is Saturday? Oh, Saturday is the HTX Houston, Texas Whiskey Fest up in the Woodlands. Be heading up the Lisa will be joining. Maybe we'll do a sip and chill from the distillery with Lisa. Because y'all missing Lisa. Maybe we'll do a Friday night thing with Lisa. Maybe. We'll see. We'll see. We got shit. We got shit going on. We got stuff to do. It's going to be fun, entertaining. I mean, this has been a great week. I really love it when we get busy. It's exhausting, but it's like the reason for being. We have now called Zips Liquor 23 times straight, 23 days, 23 business days in April. This is another project I'm working on. So Zips Liquor is a local chain in the state of Texas. It's based in Houston, the Houston area. Their headquarters is just north of Houston in the Woodlands. They are 38 stores, mid to small market stores. They go from, like, these are the towns you've never heard of. College Station, Corpus Christi, Huntsville, Crosby, Liberty, Dayton. They're smaller towns, and they kind of ring around Houston. Like Houston's this big fucking Goliath in the middle of the map. Zips is like around it. All of their stores are within 90 minutes of our distillery. Within 90 minutes of our distillery. And there's a chance that our whiskey's gonna be in fucking Italy before it's in Huntsville in the Zips liquor store. How fucked up is that? How stupid is it that we might be in Italy before we're in Huntsville with the Zips liquor? How dumb is that? Like, there's absolutely no reason for them not to carry our whiskey. There's no reason. They should at least try it and make an informed decision. All you got to do is say, yes, come on in. Let me try your whiskey. This is how you can get us in the store. Hook up with this distributor. Hook up with that distributor. This is the distributor we're using. You don't want to work with them? Fine. These guys will supply you. We'll go with those guys for your stores. But how hard is it to set up another vendor for your fucking stores? It's a keystroke. You tap in some stuff. You do it one time and you're done. It's not like it's a tremendous amount of work. You don't have to do anything. The truck shows up, dumps a case of whiskey at your store, and they fuck off back to their warehouse. They don't sit there and talk and make them dinner. They just show up, give you stuff and an invoice, and then you leave. That's it. And you don't have to do, like, you hit print on checks and the checks print and you put them in envelopes and send them out the door. You don't do anything. You don't do a goddamn thing. Then you can have hundreds of vendors. We're talking about 3. We're talking about adding a 3rd vendor to your list of 2. It's not that fucking complicated. Why should it be that complicated? You're a Texas-based chain. You're a Houston-based chain with a Houston distillery saying, give us a chance. Call us back, motherfuckers. This isn't hard. This isn't complicated. This is a no-brainer. I'm not even asking y'all to put resources behind it. Just buy the whiskey. We'll sell it. I'll show up with my fucking girls in hot pants and tank tops, and they'll sell the whiskey all day long. They're sports bras and giggles. They'll sell it. Don't worry about that. Put my junk in your mouth, you'll buy it. No question. Tell me. Just call me back. Call me back, set an appointment, taste my whiskey. Is it good? You like it? Put it on your shelves. Let me sell it. I know you have whiskey that tastes like fucking dumpster water. I've seen your selection. Don't tell me that you only do the finest whiskeys in all the land, but you don't have my whiskey. If you don't have if you don't have my whiskey, you don't have the finest whiskeys in all the land. If you don't have my whiskey, you have good whiskeys, but not the finest in all the land. You have the finest that Glacier and Republic provide. You don't have the finest in all the land. You have the best that they provide, not the best. The best, right here, bitches. Best goddamn Texas whiskey you've ever had. Come on, give me some. All right, let me look back at chat. We're about done. Dashboards, they can park in the handicap spaces. You see, I wasn't terribly worried about the noise that I heard because I didn't reach back here and grab the peacekeeper. I did go to U of H. U of H is a great school. His brother, the man decided to be divorced in Texas. He remembered the. Remembered the alimony. That's a great one. That's great. I am not sure that is a true story either. Like, we're told that Sam Houston went among the troops and he said, you remember the Alamo? Y'all remember what they did to the folks at the Alamo? Y'all remember what they did to the folks at Goliad? You remember what they did to Goliad? You remember what they did to the Alamo? You remember? You remember? I'm not sure that's a true story. It's a great story. Don't get me wrong. It's a great fucking story. I'm not sure it's a true story. Because there's a lot about the Texas Revolution that's myth and not fact. A whole lot that's myth and not fact. But, like, Davy Crockett came to Texas to fight for Texas independence. No, he didn't come to Texas to fight for Texas independence. He came to Texas because he thought the fight for Texas independence was done. And he was going to get some land. He came to Texas for greed. William Barrett Travis was the hero of the Alamo. But he wrote his letter, victory or death. The famous victory or death letter that he wrote to the Congress for the state of Texas, or the nation of Texas at the time. It was the Independence Council. He was not hoping. He was hoping for liberation. He was hoping for rescue. He was hoping, like, he was not this brave warrior who was facing death. He was hoping that Fannin would show up. He was hoping that Houston would show up and rescue them. Because in his private communications, his public communications, all bravado, liberty or death, liberty or death. But his private communications were all like, take care of my son. Like, I am giving my life for this cause. Will you take care of my son? He needs to know that his father gave his life for an idea. He knew he was going to die. He had a pretty good idea he was going to die, at least. He had 6,000 Mexican soldiers bearing down on the Alamo that had 185 troops in it. And they almost repulsed that attack. Almost. but couldn't quite pull it off. If just a couple of shots, if he hadn't caught a bullet in the forehead right at the beginning of that fight, maybe they would have pulled that off. But no, that's just not how it went. And we say that Texians fought for the rebellion for independence. They didn't fight the rebellion for independence. They fought the rebellion to restore the Constitution of 1824 in Mexico, which had a Congress and a president, elected president. The the Constitution of 1824 was suspended, which made Santa Anna the dictator of Mexico without a Congress, without any governmental bureaucracy to ensure proper statehood, and merged Texas with Coahuila. It was a clusterfuck. It was a complete clusterfuck. But they weren't fighting for independence. They were fighting to restore the Constitution of 1824. It wasn't until, and also the Constitution of 1824 allowed slavery. There was that. They needed to have their slaves in order to pick their cotton. Couldn't have slaves. It was going to be tough to run their farms. It was tough to run their plantations without slaves. And the Constitution, the suspension of the Constitution of 1824 outlawed slavery, outlawed representation, outlawed a bunch of stuff. It suspended Congress and made representation for. It reduced the independence of the colonies in Texas. I mean, there's a lot of mythology. The idea that Fannin was a brave soldier and was doing the best that he possibly could. That motherfucker was a coward and probably a traitor. He was almost certainly, like everything that I've read suggests that he was almost certainly working a deal or attempting to work a deal for his release back to the United States. He was going to sell out his men for a release back to the United States because he was a West Point graduate. He was a commissioned officer in the United States Army, working for the Texans at the time. Texans didn't exist until after the Alamo fell. But Fannin, he was a decorated soldier. He was an American soldier. He was an American officer. I kind of get this feeling that Fannin was working an angle where he's like, you can have these rebels, but you got to let me go. I'm an American soldier. I'm an American officer. You got to, like, I can help you put down this rebellion. I mean, I'm an amateur historian when it comes to this. I'm not even close to, I don't have any evidence. This is just when I'm reading it. This is the vibe that I get. I may be wrong. That's fair. But Fannin was a piece of shit. If not for Fannin, like the Alamo could have been rescued if not for Fannin. Fannin handed his men over and died an inglorious death. Don't shoot me in the face. Don't shoot me in the heart. Don't take my watch. Shot him in the face, shot him in the heart, stole his watch. Took his clothes, took him everything. Burned him in a pyre. And he deserved it too, because the motherfucker's a traitor. What else do we hear about the like we get this story about the runaway scrape. The runaway scrape was when Houston ordered everyone west of the Brazos to retreat east. All the settlements, all the men, all the women, burn your farms, kill your cattle, leave east. That happened. Absolutely happened. We're also told that as the army was marching east, there was a fork in the road, and Houston was not marching at the head of the army. Houston was back a few feet back, meters, yards, whatever. He wasn't anywhere near the front, in the middle of the men. The road forked. To the left was Nacogdoches and Louisiana. To the right, Houston, Harrisburg, Galveston. If they go left, they go to Freedom. They go right, they go to war. And this was the point where the Texas government had already left Washington and the Brazos. They were fleeing to Galveston. Santa Anna and his men had raced forward to try and catch the Texas government before they caught Galveston, before they got out. So Santa Anna had stretched his army out all the way across the state of Texas, from the Alamo, from San Antonio all the way across to Houston, which, by the way, about 200 miles, 199 miles from San Antonio to Houston. Stretched his army out. They had about 600 men in the vanguard racing towards Galveston to try and catch the Texas government as they fled. Houston's men, Fork of the Roads. This happened just a few days ago, historically. At the Fork of the Roads, the men took the right turn. Houston was not at the lead of this group. They took the Fork. There was going to be a fight. No more retreats. No more fleeing. There was going to be a fight. This is how we're told it happened. I don't know if it happened that way. I kind of think that Houston probably led this procession to the right. I kind of think that he led them on that road, because that seems ridiculous. And then they finally get to San Jacinto, the battleground, and they cross over the ferry. They burn the ferries. Houston and his men have high ground. Santa Anna and his men have come back up from Galveston to where the San Jacinto battleground is. And this is going to happen in actually April 24th is when at this point so on the map, Houston is up here in the north, Santa Ana's down here in the south. Santa Ana's going to Galveston, Houston's coming north. They're going to move up from Galveston, and Houston's going to be camped waiting for them. The game of chess is ending. Wait, what day is it? This is like right now. This happened just a couple days ago, historically. I thought today was the 22nd. Why the fuck I'm off on my days? So anyway, as Santa Anna's coming back, like the army, like the whole Texian army is right there. So Santa Anna says, "Fine, we're coming at them. We're gonna pin them in." That's how it happened. This wasn't some grand strategy to trap the Mexican army. This was fucking dumbassery among the Mexicans. And, Houston had high ground, but he had a ragtag group of farmers and colonists who had been training now for 2 months. Training, shooting, target practice, drills, discipline for 2 months. How long is boot camp? Yeah. Okay, so he doesn't have an untrained army at this point. He has a green army, but there's some veterans in this army who fought in Indian wars. There's some veterans in this army who fought in Mexican wars. There's veterans in this army who fought for frontier wars. There's veterans in this army who fought in American wars. But it's not an untrained ragtag group of farmers with pickaxes and pitchforks and hunting rifles. These are fucking people that know what they're doing. They've been drilled. They've been trained. They've been beaten into subservience. Not a bunch of untrained yokels. Not nobodies. And the Mexican army was probably the Napoleon of the West, is what they called it. One of the best trained armies in the West. Mexico was a fucking superpower by American standards in the 1830s. This cat and mouse game. Santa Anna chasing down his rival government. He was going to capture Burnett and the Texian government. He was going to capture him, execute him, put down this rebellion once and for all. Stretched his army out from San Antonio all the way out to Galveston, turned the vanguard of that army back up. If the Battle of San Jacinto hadn't happened when it did, Santa Anna would have received another 400 units, 400 troops of reinforcements in the next 24 hours. If it hadn't happened when it did, in the next 48 hours, he would have gotten another 800 units. In the next 72 hours, he would have gotten another 1,000 men. The Battle of San Jacinto had to happen when the Battle of San Jacinto happened. If it hadn't happened when it happened, the Texans would have been overwhelmed by Mexican numbers. It wouldn't have mattered that they were on the high ground. It wouldn't have mattered if they had 2 cannons from Cincinnati, the Twin Sisters. It wouldn't have mattered if they remembered the Alamo or remembered Goliad. If it hadn't happened when it happened, they would have been overwhelmed by 3 times as many numbers. Most of the Mexican forces would have caught up to the Mexicans, to the vanguard of the army, and wiped out the Texans. The same way they did in the Alamo. Had to happen when it happened. And it didn't happen the morning of when it should have happened. It didn't happen. The Mexicans were ready. They stayed awake. They prepared. They didn't sleep that night. They got ready for a fight. Sam Houston was like, nah, it's all right. Guys, sleep in. Walked among the men. You remember the Alamo? You remember Goliad? Yeah. You remember what they did in the Alamo? You remember what they did at Goliad? Yeah. That's what they're going to... They asked him that because that's what they were going to do there. That was going to be their fate. If they didn't fight that day at that battle site, at that location, that was going to be their fate. He wasn't whipping them up and getting them motivated. He was letting them know, you're going to die here. We win or we die. Remember the Alamo? Remember what they did to Goliad? Don't forget it. Like, I don't know if it happened. Honest to God, I don't know if it happened. That's a myth. That's a story. That's what we're told. But I like to believe it did. I really do. I like to believe it did. Not for the reasons they tell us, to whip them up into fighting, blah, 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 but just to remind them, this is who we're fighting. They're putting down a rebellion. They're putting it down brutally. And you're the rebels. How you want this to end, boys? Okay. Keep your head about you. Keep your heads about you. Keep your wits about you. You remember what they did to Goliad? You remember what they did to the Alamo? Keep your wits about you. Keep your heads. Don't break. Don't run. They'll break. Stick with it. Stay firm. Then 10 o'clock came by. 11 o'clock comes by. The Mexicans break ranks. They make lunch. They take their siesta. They relax. And at 3 o'clock, the vanguard of the Texan forces move into position. And at 3:30, they start advancing. And then when they see the first Mexican troops, the alarm sounds, they attack. 3:30 in the afternoon, gunshots ring out for the next 3 hours, but the battle is done in about 30 minutes. In 30 minutes, the Mexican army, the Napoleon of the West, the finest fighting force that the Western nations have ever seen, is evaporated. Gunshots ring out for the next 3 hours, but the fighting is done in less than 30 minutes. In less than 30 minutes, the Mexican army is routed. They're sent to the bushes. They're sent to the swamps. They're sent to the rivers. They're gone. 3 more hours, gunshots ring out. The men are frantically searching for Santa Anna. Why are they searching for Santa Anna? Because there's another 6,000 Mexican forces stretched out between Houston and San Antonio. There's another 6,000 men in the state, the country, at this point. It's a country. It's an independent country. Sam Houston gets shot in the ankle. He's incapacitated underneath an oak tree. The men go searching for Santa Anna. They find him, but they don't know they find him. They bring all the men together. Santa Anna's dressed in common soldiers' outfits. The thing that gives him away is his nice buttons. Apparently, they're gold buttons. But his men identify him. His men see him and they salute him. Santa Anna, Senor, El jefe, senor, presidente. They salute him. They say who he is. They give him away. The Mexican or the Texan men grab him, bring him to Sam Houston. Sam Houston forces him to sign a surrender treaty and retreat his men out of Texas because of his if he doesn't order his men to retreat out of Texas, Sam Houston knows he doesn't have the men to fend off the rest of the Mexican army. If the rest of the Mexican army forms up outside on the edge of the San Jacinto battlegrounds, if the rest of the Mexican army forms up, they can overwhelm and destroy the Texas army. If they overwhelm and destroy the Texas army, it doesn't matter how many fucking declarations of independence the Texas government has signed. It doesn't matter how many. Every single man, woman, and child attached to that army would be slaughtered, and they knew it. All of the colonists would have been purged out of the land of Texas. Mexico would have held Texas. But Sam Houston, that's why Sam Houston didn't execute Santa Anna. That's why Sam Houston left Santa Anna to live and made Santa Anna sign a surrender document and retreat his armies back south of the Rio Grande. Because if they hadn't retreated back south of the Rio Grande, the entire cause of the rebellion of Texas would have been lost. Because the entire cause of the rebellion of Texas would have been overwhelmed by the huge force of men that Santa Anna had brought into the state of Texas. They were putting down rebellions with force. And they weren't about to let these upstart fucking colonists get away with their shit. But Santa Anna didn't have a choice at that point. It was take the noose and get your body riddled with bullets, or order the retreat of your forces. And you can go join them in Mexico City, but you cannot stay here. And that, my friends, is how Texas became an independent country and eventually in a state of the union. It was a thing. It was a whole fucking thing. It's a beautiful story, full of myth, full of myth. It's an origin myth, but it is a beautiful story. But we also should remember that the basis of this story is Mexico said you can't have slaves anymore. That is the primary driver, the principal primary driver. There's a lot of irritants. There was so many irritants along the way. And the people of Texas said, we can deal with that. 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 But when they fucked with their economics and they fucked with their white supremacy, can't do that. We can't fucking deal with that. You mean we got to live next to these people? No, we can't have that. You got to pay these motherfuckers? No, we ain't going to pay with that. No. We ain't going to be part of this country no more. Restore the Constitution that said we can own other human beings, motherfucker. That's how we're going to do things. Welcome to Texas. Salisbury steak and wait, what? Cadavers? What? Salisbury steak cadavers. Devon Medical. Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Haven't seen Lisa in a long. No, you haven't seen Lisa in a long time. She hasn't been on since probably January, I want to say. Italy. Italy will be. There will be an announcement about Italy in the next couple of months. I don't want to get ahead of myself. There's more to be said about that, but not tonight. Next time we go to China, I'll take a few bottles with me. You can add another country to your bragging. Oh, dude, China would be a great place to sell whiskey. There's 1 billion people in China. 1 billion people there. If 1/10 of them drank my whiskey, hell, 100th of them, 0.1%. Holy shit. China is a fertile land to sell delicious whiskeys. So much, what a sales pitch. Turnip cake, and I don't even know where I was at midnight. God damn. What time is it? Jesus Christ, was I talking about the Texas Rebellion for 20 minutes? Jesus. Turnip cake with soy sauce? Dude, Dom, that sounds like ass. I mean, the only part about turnip cake and soy sauce that sounds good is soy sauce. Ugh. Ugh. I mean, I think I would politely have a bite and move on to eat like a cheese sandwich or something. Good God. Um, Sam Austin was real? Sam Austin. So that would be Moses Austin and his son, Stephen F. Austin? Sam Houston. Okay. Okay, so Moses Austin was the guy who secured the first charter for colonies in the state of Texas from the Mexican government, which was the Spanish government at the time, but he became the Mexican government. And then Stephen F. Austin was the person who brought colonists to the state of Texas for the first time. The old 300, the first 300 colonists to the state of Texas. It was Sam Houston, not Sam Austin. It was Stephen F. Austin, Sam Houston. And Sam Houston has a connection to Macbeth. Sam Houston claimed a lineage back to the Danish king Macbeth. So, yeah. What's this? NPR.org. What's that? Looking at that link now. Forget the Alamo offices. We have a Texas origin. Oh, yeah. I'll look at that later. That looks like a fun story to read. I'm going to click that one more time. So Crockett surrendered and was executed. That's what they say. That's what they say. Crockett did not come to Texas with some high-minded ideas. So here's the way the story plays out originally. The Constitution of 1812 or 1824 was suspended. The central government of Mexico needs weapons to put down rebellions and reorganize and rearm their army. So they tell their frontiers that we need our weapons back. And they had loaned a gun out to the folks over in Bayard and Goliad. And they had sent an army. They had first requested their cannon to be returned to them. And the garrison at Bayard, Bexar, Bayard, said, no, we're going to keep it. Thanks, though. So they send an army up to Bayard County, what we call Bayard County, San Antonio. Send an army up to San Antonio to take that gun back. I'm sorry, up to Goliad to take that gun back. And in Goliad, they said, no, you can't have it. And they shot him and fought him back and sent him back across the Rio Grande. And that's where you get the Gadsden flag, the come and take it flag that has the cannon, come and take it. That's what they flew over the mission in Goliad when they came back to take it. So everybody thought that this was going to be, we were in open rebellion and it wasn't going to be a big deal. Like, it wasn't going to be a big deal. They thought it was done. They thought it was finished. They thought that Santa Anna was going to just acknowledge and accept it and say, okay, they're not going to deal with this shit. At the very least, we'll have autonomy. If not independence, we'll have autonomy within, like, the Mexican Federation. We'll be an independent state within the Federation. Everything will be fine. That's not how it played out. The way it played out was Santa Anna was like, we're not going to put up with these fucking rebellions. They put down the rebellion in Coahuila. They put down the rebellion in there was another province. They put down a rebellion. He had rebellions popping up all over the place. He put one down brutally. Texas was next. Landed troops in Corpus Christi, working their way up the coast. And the other set of the massive army that he had was about 4,000 men. Had one army of 4,500 men and one army of 1,500 men, and both of them crossed the Rio Grande to different places. One along the coast and one in the central places, the central around McAllen and the central Gulf Coast. So everybody thought this was going to be an easy rebellion. Everybody thought it was going to be done because a couple of shots were fired the first time, and the Mexican army fucked off back south to Mexico. They were done. They were like, we're not going to fight this fight. We're not equipped for it. We're done. But they left. So everybody thought it was going to be easy. And then in comes Jim Bowie. In comes Davy Crockett. David Crockett, if you're from Kentucky or Tennessee. In comes these other guys. Sam Houston. All these other guys. They come into the state. William Barrett Travis. He's like, well, I'm going to be hero of the Texas independence movement. And he has this fucking bow tie and his goddamn, douchebag hat. They all thought this was going to be an easy fight, an easy rebellion. Mexico was going to lay down, and it was going to be simple and easy and done. And after the Alamo, nope, they all knew better. Davy Crockett comes in. He was a successful businessman in Kentucky, and he was David Crockett, a successful businessman. He took 90 days to come from Kentucky to Texas. He went through Kentucky, Arkansas, East Texas, all the way down. He was a moderately famous individual in that region. Garnered him up a posse, a militia of about 38 men. Tennessee volunteers. Because he was promised land. He was promised land, and he thought he was going to get his land, and he thought he was going to have nary a fight to fight. The Alamo was supposed to be the place where the Mexican army came, fought, failed, and went home. But that wasn't Santa Anna's plan. Santa Anna's plan was, we're going to fuck these guys up. And he had two armies. He had the one in San Antonio, and then he had the other one going up the coast. He had something like 5,000 men at the Alamo. He lost 600 fighting the defenders of the Alamo. 600 to 1,000? I don't remember the exact number. But the men at the Alamo killed 4 men for every one that they'd lost. And there was like 180 men at the Alamo. So they killed like 600 men. It was a bloodletting. That was like 10% of the army. It was an absolute bloodletting for the Mexicans. Santa Anna didn't care. He was going to kill every man, woman, and child in the state of Texas in order to put down the rebellion. He was going to kill every single American colonist that he came across and replace them with Mexican colonists. Because they had a huge population in that belt north and south of Mexico City. They have 25 million people in Mexico City. He could have colonized all of Mexico with Mexico City citizens. They wouldn't have wanted to go because the frontier in Mexico is shit compared to Mexico City. Mexico City is a goddamn paradise. It's a fucking tropical paradise. You talk about going to the deserts of Coahuila and Chihuahua and all those places? Fuck that. The Baja Desert? Jesus Christ. Texas at the time was a dusty fucking backwater. The only part of Texas, you think of Texas, the only part of Texas that's nice is that golden triangle between San Antonio, Dallas, and Houston. You get west of San Antonio, it is desert wasteland, just shit land. You don't want to be there. You do not want to be there. You go east of Houston and east of Dallas, it's thick forests. There's a reason that there's no other major cities east of Dallas and east of Houston. I mean, Beaumont's a major city, but that's because of oil, not because of Beaumont. Anyway, yeah. The myth is strong. Davy Crockett was a mythological, larger than life individual, but he was absolutely not in it for the freedom. He was in it for the money. Absolutely in it for the money. But origin myths are important to have. It's what makes a people a people. you can hold both things at the same time in your mind. You can hold the origin myths of the United States and the great men of the founding fathers and the documents and all the stuff. You can hold them in one silo. And then you can hold the reality in the other silo, that they were humans and they were flawed men, and they didn't live up to the ideals that they espoused. They were products of their own time. They can be both things simultaneously. We can have the ideal and the reality, and they don't have to overlap at all. You can have the ideal of a man who establishes a country that has high morals and high ideals and high images to live up to, that we have an eternity to search for and strive for. But he's bound by the reality of his time. You can do both of those things simultaneously. We're sophisticated human beings. We can do this. We're capable of doing it. We're capable of knowing that George Washington wanted men to be free, but he also owned slaves. That Thomas Jefferson wanted men to be free, and that the equality of mankind and all men are endowed with certain unalienable rights. But he owned human beings, and he raped a woman and birthed children from her. We can hold these things together at the same time in non-overlapping uh, uh, containers, because we can understand that, like, there's an ideal to live up to, but the reality is we don't live up to it in the time that we are, but we can hand down something better to our children, because the future is is unwritten, but can always be better than what we have today. Our children don't have to be bound by the mistakes of our parents. They certainly don't have to be bound by our mistakes. We're not perfect. We're absolutely not perfect. But we don't have to be bound by the mistakes of our ancestors. And our children and our children's children don't have to be bound by our own mistakes and our own errors. Our children can rise above our own imperfections and build a world that's even better than the one that we hoped they would have. But our responsibility is to hand them a world that has potential beyond that which we receive. That's our responsibility as a people, to work to hand our children something better than we received, so that they can take it and carry that ball forward and then hand something to their children that's even better than they received. And to date, there's only been one generation that has betrayed that promise. Only one. And they betrayed their descendants, they betrayed their ancestors, and they betrayed the 3 generations that followed. They took something that was handed to them that was good and improving, and they undid all the progress, all of that progress. They undid it, and we're still dealing with those consequences today. And as those people die off and the younger people come of age, we're hoping to correct those errors and bring it forward into a world that's better than what we were given. A world full of hope, a world full of promise, and not a world full of doom and sadness. But that's our responsibility. I don't know how I got there from where I was, but yeah, but the mythology stories, yeah, yeah. I mean, we can hold those two things together. We can understand where we got, how we got to where we are from the times where we came from, because uh, one of the things that I've always said in the past is, and I still say in the future, is that we are where we are because of where we were. Like, roads go somewhere because of where the way the roads were laid down. That's how it is. You lay a road down and you're not going to deviate far off that roadbed. That's where the roads go. You can modify it, you can change it, but you're not going to tear it up and drastically move it to some different place. We are where we are because of where we've been. The size of our roads, the size of our railroads, the size of our tunnels, the size of the of the solid rocket boosters on the space shuttle are what they are because of the width of roads in Rome in 400 BC. We are where we are because of where we've been. And the only way to change where we are to someplace different than where we're going to go is with a tremendous amount of time, a tremendous amount of effort, and a tremendous amount of energy over a sustained period of time. That's why we don't have national insurance. Because we have insurance companies. We have this ingrained infrastructure. That's why theaters aren't going to go away because people have spent a lot of money building theaters. So your super mega complexes of 36 screen theaters aren't going to go away because they've spent a tremendous amount of money making 36 screen theaters. If AMC went out of business tomorrow, guarantee there'd be 4 different companies filling the place of AMC. All of those theaters that they have, 4 companies fill them up like that. If they went bankrupt tomorrow, they'd be split into at least 4 companies, maybe 6. And yeah, if GameStop went away, or like when Blockbuster went away, just evidence that the physical Blockbuster model was archaic. Because if that was still a viable model, there'd have been a couple of companies that came in and bought them up and still done video rentals, physical video rentals. God, how fucking archaic. Anyway, it's not that we get told a lot of wrong things. We get told a lot of idealized things. They're not wrong. They're just not entirely true. They're true from a certain point of view, but not from an objective point of view. As soon as I see John Wayne, I was, yep. John Wayne is absolutely American propaganda. That guy was probably gay. John Wayne was probably gay, but he was absolutely a caricature of what an American man, a rough, tough man, individual man. I think his name was Quincy. His real name was Quincy. I don't know if that's true, but it should be. Anyway. It was not until Pancho Villa the Mexican army was truly rattled. Pancho, poor people. That's true. I think that's right. Yeah, Pancho Villa was something else. There's still pictures. You go down to the border with Texas and Mexico, down in Harlingen and Brownsville and McAllen and places down there. You'll see pictures in restaurants with Pancho Villa and his men. He is a fucking hero still. Still, to this day in the border between Mexico and Texas, he is a fucking hero. Absolutely. Uh, 12:17. Well, how far am I behind? Holy shit. It is 12:48. God damn it. I was going to quit like 48 minutes ago. All right, catching up. Catching up. Thank you. 12:17 a.m. minutes, 45 minutes. Don't forget to subscribe. Tater's still in the house. Cheers, Tater. I always thought something was a little off. Even War myth, CCP. Oh, I bet the Chinese military, the propaganda that the Chinese government puts out is tremendous. I mean, there's a lot of Chinese history that we don't know, but I bet there's a lot of Chinese propaganda that we should know. Just like there's a lot of Russian history that we don't know. The Russian involvement in World War II, Soviet involvement in World War II, Russian history. There's a lot of real Russian history that we don't know. Because we hardly learn about the Soviet involvement in the defeat of Germany. When we're studying World War II, it's always, the Americans landed in D-Day and Normandy and stormed through and, but like the Russians made it to Berlin first. Like, yeah, I mean, granted, they made it with like we gave them a lot of supplies and weapons and bullets and ammo and all the stuff that we did to make the Russian machine work. If it weren't for us, they would have. Well, I don't know if this is American propaganda or truth, but my understanding is that if it weren't for us, oh, they would have failed. They would have capitulated and collapsed. But I mean, it was the Lend-Lease program that kept them afloat from and they chewed up a bunch of Nazis, making it possible for us to take them on from the West. Or maybe it was us who chewed up a bunch of Nazis in the West and made it possible for them to take Germany from the East. I don't know. There's a whole lot of information in there that I don't get because I'm in the United States and that's behind the Iron Curtain that they put down from the. There history is a lot more nuanced when you don't take it from a certain point of view. When you look at both sides and you kind of try and understand history, like the United States has been fuckers for a long time. But we've been working in our own best interest to defend our empire, and that's just what we do. Like what you expect us just to lay down and go, okay, well, this is our way of life, but let everything. It's unreasonable to expect otherwise. And it's the same thing, unreasonable to expect otherwise. It was just incompatible systems. Incompatible systems that fought against each other. The Chinese and the United States system, they're compatible at least. Their governing systems are not, but their economic systems are. Um, it's fascinating to see because there's no black and white in history. History is full on gray from the dawn of time to today. It is full on gray. There's you know competing interests and differentiating interests, and we learned it from the American imperial point of view, obviously. But there's also I would love to hear more. Well, I mean we don't hear about the Aztec history because the Aztecs are gone. They woke up one day and everybody had smallpox and they died and then Spain took over. It was like oh, it's a great beautiful Tuesday. Everybody's dead. Like what the fuck? I thought we had an empire yesterday. We don't anymore. Oh, yes, we're dead. History's fucking fascinating. I absolutely love. I would. Yeah. Anyway. Um. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just saying it is what it is. And there's reality to history and there's fake history. And if you can parse through the fake history and the nonsensical shit and at least identify the propaganda for what it is, um, it makes a great this beautiful interweaving story. And it really informs how fucked up everything always has been because we read history and we're told this story that has a clear beginning, a clear middle, and a clear end. And that's not how history is. Like the American Revolution could have gone an entirely different way. The Texas Revolution could have gone an entirely different way. Had they not launched their attack at 3:30 in the afternoon on April 24th, the Texas Revolution would have ended entirely differently. We would be speaking Spanish right now. You wouldn't be talking to me in Houston. I would be speaking Spanish if Houston hadn't launched his attack at 3:30 in the afternoon. If he had decided, nah, we'll wait till morning, wouldn't have happened. We would not be Texan. I would be Mexican. That is how much of a razor's edge history cuts. It was one decision. I mean, that's not to say that there wouldn't have been some rebellion later on, but the Texas Rebellion would have, if he would have waited till morning, Santa Ana would have been reinforced, and then we wouldn't have a Texas. It would be a province of Mexico. Mexico would have been the superpower of the American continent because Mexico would have had California. Mexico would have had Colorado. Mexico would have had Arizona and New Mexico and Utah. Mexico would have had all of that. Most of Oklahoma. If Sam Houston hadn't launched that attack at 3:30 in the afternoon, if he would have waited to the morning. Mexico would have had the gold mines of California. Mexico would have had. Now, that's assuming that the United States wouldn't have figured out a way to force that out of Mexico's hands at some point later. But basically, all the American men, women, and children would have been killed by the Mexican army. And that would have been the end of the Texas idea. The idea of an independent Texas. That'd be the end. That's not to say that Mexico would have figured out how to actually monetize and develop those resources. Because we're talking the 1849ers were still another 13 years away. I mean, maybe, maybe not. I mean, most of the homesteads were north of Texas and in Kansas, Nebraska, South Dakota, and up into Oregon. Most of the homesteads were there in the central states, not in Texas. There weren't a lot of homesteads in Texas because Texas didn't have federal land. Texas was Texas land. So there were not a lot of homesteads in Texas. So there's no reason to think that the United States would have figured out a way to wrest Texas out of Mexico's hands. And maybe Mexico would have homesteaded Texas the way the United States homesteaded Missouri and Kansas. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know. That's for an alternate history channel. I'm not an alternate history channel. That's not what I do. But yeah, it's a fun thing to think about. Fascinating thing to ponder. Very Benjamin. Cheers, Very Benjamin Life. That's a new name. Welcome to the party. 12:34. How far behind am I? 14 minutes. Welcome to the party. Good cheers. Good cheers to see you. Thanks for joining us. Don't forget to pop a like, and the subscription button, and the notification bell. I have probably had too much. I'm hearing my voice slur, so we're going to wrap this shit up. I'm going to catch up in chat, and we're going to wrap this shit up. Because I got to go to bed. I got to drive to Austin tomorrow. Mr. Jiggs is in the house. 90% is not yet correct. Cheers and good night. Thank you, Old Humble. Benjamin Life. Probably happened on a Monday. Poor text. They just wake up and they're like, yeah, everything's great. We're the rulers of Central America and we are the best fucking empire that we've ever seen. What's that? Oh, it's some little ship. Who's that? Who the fuck is that? And then everybody's dead. Yeah, the Texas Revolution is definitely over, Jigs. There's no more Texas Revolution happening. We are very happily Americans. There's no more Texas Revolution happening. Um, I think the future planners of our world in Asia, America, Russia, and elsewhere are going to delete the history they'd prefer not to hear about. Oh, I don't know about that. That's a very Orwellian thing to say. Very Benjamin Life. That's a very Orwellian thing to say. I don't think that's possible. The internet carries on as it does. Maybe. I mean, maybe. But you know, I don't know. I don't know. Like reality has this persistence to it. Reality has a persistence to it. There's. I mean, it's funny to look at like shows like Futurama when they're talking about like how people rode dinosaurs and like this is the kind of car that Cro-Magnon man drove around and fought dinosaurs in. Like it's funny, it's a laugh, haha, but I don't think that's how like future history is going to be. I think there's enough people who are dedicated to maintaining the narrative of at least the broad strokes of history, and it's really hard to change the broad strokes of history. And if you look at the cuckoo birds like Joe Rogan and Graham Chapman and the ancient civilization ding dongs who are like, oh well, maybe the ancient civilizations had UFOs that taught them how to make stuff. It's like no. Even a simple investigation of the different pyramids and how they work together, like they don't work together. Like the simple investigation of the different pyramids in different cultures all around the world show that they fully grew up independently. Simple investigation shows that they just grew up independently. And by the way, a very efficient way of piling rocks is in the shape of a pyramid. That's just how it goes. Like there's a lot of people who periodically and persistently try to revise history and change the narrative and invent stories that just don't fit with reality. And it's fun to see stuff like Futurama where they just like forget stuff and just make up stories and like they don't really care. But that's not how the world works. We care about our history. We care about where we came from. I mean, I respect it. I understand. I get it. But like world history fan fiction is a fun thing to dabble in, but it's not. It's no ancient civilization nonsense and history revision is no different than Harry Potter stories. It's no different. It makes a good story. It makes a good narrative, but in the long run, it just doesn't mean anything. Um, and I include that with I include with that holy texts and things like that because there's history in them and there's like history. There's real stuff and then there's propaganda and being able to differentiate between the two. I mean, it's blasphemy, it's heresy if as an elder of the church saying stuff like that. But you know, there's things in the Bible that you look at and you go, okay, this is them saying that for the time that it exists, and then this is them saying that for the actual history, and then this is them saying that for eyewitness accounts. It's being able to parse it out and discern what it is that you're reading and why it is that you're reading what you're reading. Anywho, Jigs, did you get your bottles? Did you get your box? I assume you got your box by now, Jigs. Hat and everything. I assume you got it. I don't know if you're still in chat, but if you are, say yes. And then we're gonna wrap this shit up because I've got to drive to Austin. God damn it, it's 1 o'clock. You goddamn degenerates have kept me up an hour after I wanted to be up. Um, can't quite reading because the person keeps. That's 100% right. Anyway, all right, we're good. That's it. I'm done. We're at the end of chat. Old Humble Overnight is done. We're done. The Art Bell portion of our show is finished. We're going back to the main channel right here. We've passed 210. We're up here. We're at a big number. This is fucking amazing. I love you guys. Thank you so much for your support. I truly, truly appreciate it. But I got to wrap it up. I got to drive to Austin tomorrow. I'll be back either tomorrow night or Friday. I'll definitely be back Friday. I've got work to do at the distillery. I'll be back Friday. I may be back tomorrow night if my son remembers to bring his computer down tomorrow night. I'll be back tomorrow night. We'll do a sip and chill. We'll catch up. We'll do a forum. Everybody's welcome in. We'll have the link and all that stuff. Join me. Enjoy the time. Blah blah blah. All the things. If you're local to the Houston area and you want to participate in things that are fun, you can join us at the Whiskey Fest. The event is on Facebook and Eventbrite. You can join us at the distillery and be one of the first people to have our Boomtown Bourbon limited edition blackout labels. That's it, man. See you guys next Wednesday. Cheers! Be awesome to each other. Continue to be awesome to each other. And may you focus more on your shots and less on your oughts. And remember, in the world of oughts is disappointment, but in the world of shots is nothing but joy. Cheers and good night.